survive, and you're still alive. Carry on, even if you've been misled and all of your dreams are dead. Carry on, even if you can't forget. Take a quick look and settle your regrets. can't believe it, how you're leaving me now. I went through fire and flames just to call you mine. I'm walking past the old canteen. We're still here like a movie scene. I watch and smile, get me down, and I'm on my knees. Next thing I know, I'm out alone in the cold. I went through fire and flames just to call you mine. Breaking shackles and chains just to call you mine. I can't believe it, how you're leaving me now. I went through fire and flames just to call you mine. I know I should turn my back and learn from you, 'cause it's all I can do. I know somewhere deep down I know where this thing is heading to, where it's heading.
Good evening and welcome everyone. My name is Justin Tate and this is Alexis Bowen. How are you tonight, Alexis?
Yes, I'm doing very, very well indeed. Oh, what a beautiful circuit to be at for the Motorsport Australia Simagic GT3 Cup here. Wow, oh, I love Suzuka so much.
Oh, so do I. It's up there in my top tier track list, no matter what the game is. ACC has a very beautiful interpretation of it. Little shout out to Glenn before we get started for putting the broadcast on tonight. Thanks, Glenn and Octane Online Racing. Let's go. Chat's going wild. The pants have already come off, apparently.
It seems you got a big fan there in chat there with NK.
Yeah. Let's hope my wife's not watching. Very good. Well, we're already in qualifying, and this is what was the title we gave this? Pro-Am. That's right. So we've got the Pro-Ams here, and we had so many people changing cars this week. Sorry, not this week. This series, this part of the series, because we had the intro part of the series where it was the knockout stages where we separated the fast from the very fast. And if anyone has a silver name tag next to their plate, they are an international driver, and if they have a white name tag, they are an Australian driver, as this is the Australian Championship, Australian Motorsport Championship, I should say.
Yes, very lucky to be affiliated here with Motorsport Australia to run this series, which is a great honour and just shows how far Octane Online Racing has come since its inception.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be a part of this. And when Neil gave me the call up and said, "Do you want to do the commentary?" I said, "Yeah, this sounds great." I mean, and the fact that like when we get to the pro class, just how stacked that is amazing. As we're starting to get our first laps coming across the line, what times are you expecting to see there, Alexis?
Yeah, well, given that these are pro-am drivers, I wouldn't expect anything going too deep into the 58s, for example. Like yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't expect anything too ridiculous on the times front. Although we do have Sasha Def in this field, who I think is very, very fast and showed a lot of great pace in Split Yellow. Another fast driver, Chris Cooley, there for 59.320. But yeah, no, I reckon we're probably looking at that very like low 50. Oh,
Death. Sasha Death.
58.7.
Exceptionally fast last week, and that is pretty crossed up over that curve. Very angry in that Ferrari, whoever that was. That was Samuel, I think. That was huge. That looked super cool actually from that angle. Yeah, I just love the camera angles on this track too. Like even just those roadside camera angles look amazing. Just everything about this track's fun. It's quite cool, and it's challenging as a driver too. That's what I appreciate too. And I love this Aperture Science Lamborghini. It's beautiful.
Yes, a nice throwback to the Portal games.
Yes, someone's decided they're going straight into the pits and sending it back. Part of the benefits of playing an actual sim racing game is when you decide you've had enough of your lap, you just teleport back to the pits and start again.
Oh wow, Sasha Death is really going on with this right here. I've gotten my assessment very, very wrong.
With the speed of the class. Well, again, like the cool thing about Pro-Am, I will say, is like sometimes drivers just have their favorite track. You know, like they might be not well seasoned at all the tracks and like be the elite level that we get from you know, your Pips and people like that, Dylan Tans and stuff. But they can really maybe pull out a fast lap time at their favorite track, if that makes sense. Like I feel a lot of people in Pro-Am tend to have a condition or a track that they just love and they can go just as fast as the fastest guys or very close to.
Do you happen to have a track like that there, Justin?
No, not really. I don't know. To be honest, I probably haven't put enough hours into any particular game. It was Death improves again, going another 10th fast this lap.
Yeah, Death made a major error on the exit of the Casio Triangle, so there is still plenty of pace in this one.
Yeah, well, obviously the Ferrari loves this track, I'm assuming.
Yes,
Pace like
the
that.
Ferrari is very, very good around here. Really, any of your mid-engine cars will do fairly well around here. Your Ferraris, your McLarens, your Lamborghinis. Not so much your Porsche. Your Porsche has a bit of trouble around here, and yeah, most of your front-engine cars will have a little bit of a struggle. Although Chris Cooley right now is sitting in P2 there in that Aston Martin.
Yeah. Cooley has been super quick in this Aston Martin. Like, compared to where it should be on the field, I think it just seems to be showing really good pace. Feels very at one with the car, I'd say. As actually, yeah, 2/10 up pretty much, or just losing a little bit on the exit of the hairpin there, but still pretty decent lap so far. It's going to narrow that gap, although it's going to need a lot more to be able to catch Death out front there.
Yes, even then that Aston Martin, definitely not the best car in this game anymore, but Huey is still able to find pace out. But there's a few drivers that can just jump into an unfavored car and just make it work sometimes.
Yeah, we got Briss in the GTR as well. They just so quick in their GTR. Somehow, like, even though the bop is way off according to everyone I talk to, they just seem to be plodding along and doing well. He's actually caught 4/10s, so this final
and look at the time that was gaining there. Like, he is going to get very, very close. This is really good stuff from Chris Cooley.
Oh.
He's only just over a tenth off of Sasha Death. That is a very good lap in that Aston Martin.
Yeah, wow. And gains a 10th into turn 1. What? Like, oh, just...
Yeah, no, he went a little bit too deep, I reckon. But to be fair, he has to push that Aston Martin to its limits. But yeah, no, Lucas Burrs in the Nissan GTR is just another level of insane.
That's to be frank, split Porsche qualified one with... Okay, so, wow, a Porsche qualified with a 58.2. So
Yeah,
that's not bad.
That is insane pace from Porsche. He's kept it in bounds. But that looked very loose. And there it is. Yeah.
So he's got another lap. He
does have another lap, but yeah, no, he was really, really pushing it.
I haven't got enough fuel for one more. I assume he would.
Yeah, you would have fueled up for it.
Oh, look at this. This is gaining. Oh, it's only going to be a couple of tenths improvement here.
This is Drea, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Currently 2 tenths up, so he'll consolidate his position, and that will do it for his qualifying session. Currently sitting there in P3. Sasha Death has invalidated, but we'll have one more go. And Chris Cooley's in the pits, so Cooley will not have another go at this.
Cooley must have not had enough fuel.
Potentially. Or maybe he stuffed up on the start of his next lap, I don't know.
He was still a fair way away, yeah. That's alright. Well, looks like Sasha's clear. Someone pulls a miracle out. Well,
we'll keep an eye on what Ricker can do here. Just going through turn 1. Now through the very tricky S's. Oh, he gets very loose, and I think that will pretty much do it all. He's keeping it going, but he's lost a lot of time. Yeah,
that was not happy. Second he touched that curve, it was just all over. Starting it nice and wide by Piper here, probably trying to get a good line and set this lap as their fast lap. So they start the lap off nearly 0.1 up as we get into turn. Oh wow, that is
it was a little wide at the apex of turn 2 though, unfortunately, but still up by a few tenths of a second. So right now Benjamin Piper would be moving up quite a few positions if he's able to hold it, but this Audi is very, very loose, as Audis are.
Wow, that's interesting line. He's got to lose a lot of time up the hill here just because that narrow entrance there. Yeah, that slide just sort of, it just ping pongs into a worse, you know, because it's a left right, you're just out of line. Oh, that's a lot of curve trying to save time.
Yeah, well, this track, that is a super, super loose from Benjamin Piper. And yeah, he's had enough of it. But yeah, no, this track is characterized solely off of flow. If you don't have the flow, then you're going to be struggling.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's just every corner leads into the next corner, like on half the track. There's always a following corner, just about on every single corner on this track. There's not many just do this one corner and that's it.
Yeah, no, it's a tricky track as a result, and it is definitely one of the more technical circuits you'll encounter in the world, but oh my god, is it fun to drive.
Oh, it's definitely a driver's track. It's not the easiest to pass on, but it's not the hardest either, so
yeah,
somewhere in the middle.
You can overtake, but a lot of the time you're having to really push for moves or encourage the mistake from the driver ahead of you. So yeah, it's certainly going to be a tricky one, but it's, as you said, not impossible.
Yeah, and there's lots of spots that people can make mistakes, sort of thing, like because of the like this long straight, you can get a nice little draft, get alongside, and then therefore there can be all sorts of dramas happening here. It is easy to defend, I guess. I guess that's what you were trying to sort of say, is it's like if you run slightly defensive, it sort of holds up the person behind quite well. So we've actually got a pretty big improvement here. Is this going to be enough for third place?
No, it's not quite going to be enough.
Yeah, no.
And
good improvement.
No, you run out of fuel right at the end.
Oh, the fuel. Never mind.
At least that's what it looks like, just given the fact he slowed down right before the line.
Yeah, that was awkward. All right. Is we've got the last few people come across the line here? We've got any big improvements? Nope. No, that's it. That's how it lands. Do you want to take us through the racing order when we get the chance? We're going to have a quick look at the grid in a second. As everyone puts on their race setups and fuels up with race fuel, which is a very, very smart thing to do indeed.
Indeed it is. Yes, we have a 60-minute race tonight. 2 mandatory pit stops, each including tyres. I believe there would be a pit window as well to account for. A 50-minute pit window.
No pit window. No pit window when we do the 2 stops, because yeah, it's quite crazy. The 2 stops. It's
Yes.
like it just makes it 3 little sprints, 3 little like slightly larger than the qualifying dash sort of thing.
Yeah, like really realistically, you're looking at 20 minutes each stint, so
Yeah,
nice and quick.
and you tend
Which
to just
might be able to promote more overtaking as well.
Yeah. Now we had some people last week. A couple of people fuel it to about 30 minutes and then do 2 really short stints at the end. Think we'll see anything like that as we fly down the grid?
Potentially, but yes, we are looking at the grid now. You saw Death, Cooley, Drea on the left, and Johnson on the right, both FPS Evolve Racing entries. There's beautiful liveries. Then you've got Rika, and you've got Samuel on the right there, the number 22 Ferrari in P6, followed by Tonkin and Real on row 4, P7, P8, then Paulie and Cook rounding out your top 10 for Pro-Am class tonight. The Aperture liveries, you love to see it. Then you have Glover and Piper there, P11 and P12. That Audi is quite a handful around here, but Piper can certainly do some nice things in it. Matterford, Turcolini, 13, 14. Lewis and Fisher, P16, P17. Then Beaton rounding out the grid in P17.
Very good. All right. Well, this again, some lovely liveries. And a couple of very fast people that just head and shoulders above everyone. With Death and Curley, I'm surprised how much ahead they are. There was no one that far ahead last week in the Pro-Am. It was very, very tight. I believe it was less than a second to 10th place. And then it was like another couple of tenths. I think it was like 4 tenths from 10th to 20th. It was crazy tight through the field. So yeah, I'm loving to see this. Right. Oh, are we going to get... Oh, okay, he's going to drop. Good. I'm like, he's still at his jacks.
Yeah.
What's happening? There's like 5 seconds left.
Yes, leaving it to the last minute to keep those tire pressures as high as possible.
That's the line. So we're going to drive around at about 120, 140 k's an hour, I believe, and then we'll get into double file. It's quite a long warm-up lap here. One of the longer ones, not the longest, but one of the longer ones.
Yes, certainly. I mean, when you're running very quickly, you can look at a mid 58 sort of thing lap time, or for most drivers, sort of like your 59s, 2-minute lap times. So the formation lap around here can be quite long. It's definitely not the longest we have in the game. Of course, there is Bathurst, there is Spa. Silverstone's probably very similar length to this sort of thing. But yeah, no, it's definitely one of the longer warm-up laps.
Yeah, well, that's all right. And do you have a favourite for this? That's what I'm going to ask. I was going somewhere with it, but then I remembered what I was saying halfway through. I'd forgotten. So Alexis, who are you picking?
I find it hard to go past Sasha Death. They are very, very fast and showed great speed in the sprint series earlier this week. I believe they finished second in the split yellow race, just behind a very, very fast Mia Rose. So Death, it has a lower pace, but you cannot discount Cooley from it either, although that Aston Martin is not favoured at all.
So you're saying they finished second to Mia, right? Okay, that's the pace they've got.
Yes, that is the pace
yeah.
that Sasha Death was able to pull on Wednesday night.
That is very fast. I have spent a couple of weeks up in the lovely Queensland with Mia, and I set a couple of fast times on around Bathurst, and she slowly spent a couple of weeks trying to beat my time, and then got about 7/10 down the road, and I couldn't keep up. But yeah, it was a fun little activation I did up in Queensland, and she came and visited every other day to just see if she could bump her time up a bit faster, and she sure did.
Yeah, no, she is very classy behind the wheel, but we have some racing to focus on now. It will be your Pro-Am final with Death and Cooley, Drea, Johnston, Ricker, Samuel, Tonkin, Real, Paulie, and Cook. Justin, did you want to take things away with this one?
I would love to. There, Alexis, let's go. So hopefully everyone can bunch up with me. This is looking very spread out. Come on, Pro-Am, you can get together. I love it when I see a nice tight field. You want them all within less than a car gap. That 10th row is looking like 10th and 9th is looking a little bit far back, but we're probably going to go green. It's looking pretty good. A little bit of gaps here and there forming, but everyone's stabled out now. And any second row is going to be away. And here we go. The clock has started. The cars are away. No one's got a crazy jump. A little bit of a lift off there on the outside from Samuel. And single fire at the front, but 2 abreast for the rest of the field by the looks of it. Everyone seems to be getting through cleanly. We've got some very close nose detailers. Someone's on the grass short cutting up the inside there, but that's fine. The front 2 have leapt away a little bit as we head through the constant lefts and rights for the first time. Got to remember not to grain your tyres under cold temperatures. Someone going up onto the curb there as we got the battle. I believe that was Embryo. Always out wide, getting passed by a couple of cars there, dropping down the field. That's obviously not the ideal line that they were. Oh, as the Porsche goes spearing off into the gravel. Not sure if we'll see. There's a couple of cars caught up in there. Are we going to get a safety car? I think we might.
Oh dear, that's
3 cars.
Two Porsches and a Ferrari. That is so Glover, Turcolini, and have to see who that Ferrari is, but yeah, no, there's a few that have been caught up in that.
Yeah, that's a very unfortunate thing. Are we still racing at the front? I think we are. I don't think they've caught a safety car.
And
No,
it looks like we're still going at pace, and it is still Sasha Death out front.
Yeah, all those guys and girls got going again. And yeah, Sasha's actually pulled a little bit of a gap. I'm really interested to see if Chris can keep up with Sasha. They're only about 4 or 5, oh no, they're 5/6 behind now, as that Ferrari really stretched his legs down that straight. And again, we'll see if Sasha, wow, that was a big curve over there by Chris. Really pushing hard to try and keep up, wanting to keep in that toe. Is the toe worth it a fair bit here, do you think, or is it not much of a factor?
Yeah, it depends. How close you are, I suppose. It's not worth a huge amount, but if you can get nice up and close, you might be able to shape up a move, say into turn 1, for example.
Right. Okay, well, let's have a little bit of a look out for that as we continue on with this race. And things appear to have settled down. There hasn't been too much swapping of positions down the grid. I'm not looking at anyone's name, and they're not standing out to me as someone that's jumped up a whole bunch of positions, other than those back few that have gotten 3 or 4 free positions due to that little incident into Degna 1. And a Death comes through here now, looking at those skid marks out in the sand trap, going, I hope I'm not out there. And man, Chris is really pushing hard, really squiggling that car around across the curbs every time I look at the car. Got a little bit of a fishtail happening. It's actually looking like its gaps closed maybe just the tiniest amount. It is out to 7/10, but we'll see at the next little microsector that it is getting further away or closer. Probably just the hairpin compression. I'm seeing there as we going to see the replay of this incident.
Oh dear.
Okay, it's side by side, but the yellow Porsche was the one that was...
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Okay. There was a bit of a bottleneck up ahead. The cars in front slowed down a lot more than these two.
Even then, trying to go too wide through segment 1. What are you doing?
Yeah, I think... Well, you know, like, they're racing, but they're like 6 or 7 cars behind it. All of a sudden, there's just... Yeah, I think the purple car there and the white car had a small coming together, and they both sort of backed out of it. And everyone else just flew into the back of them. So a little bit of racing incident. We'll see what they go. It's a 59.1 is the fastest lap set by Death there across the line. Not bad for a first flying lap, and has pulled that gap out to 1.2 seconds to Chris there. And the rest of the field's looking pretty competitive considering, we did see it in qualifying. They were quite close from about 4th back all the way back to about 15th. There were some very close drivers in lap time wise. So yeah, a couple of drivers looking like this is going to be the battle to follow, I'd say, as Death might just be walking away with this one.
You know, she's flying up front at the moment, and it looks like we have lost a driver. I believe it's the Porsche of Damiano Turcolini, who has dropped out after that incident.
Yes, and poor Glover is getting lapped already, unfortunately,
And,
after
yeah.
repairing.
Looks like Steve Lewis is also back there, so I'm assuming he was involved in that incident as well.
Yes. Yeah, Steve Lewis would have been that Ferrari that was pictured lovely in that sand trap.
At least for Glover, it means he's already made one of his mandatories, but yeah, he is getting lapped.
Yeah, and again, that wouldn't be ideal for your pit stop strategies, as taking on extra fuel and running along is not necessarily always the thing you want to do.
Nah, no. It's never ideal. But we keep moving on regardless. Currently looking on here with the Milwaukee Racing entry of Guy Fisher, who is currently sitting in P12, although he's got Matterford all over his rear wing at the moment, and he's gone very deep and has had to cut the chicane. Had to cut the Casio Triangle. That's undoubtedly going to be a warning for track limits, as Def sets a 59 flat, if you don't mind.
Yep, nice and consistent, setting into a groove and still pulling away. That's Death seems very, very happy with that. 6/10 that last lap, so yeah, doesn't need to push any more than currently are. And yeah, so I guess that was a good use of your your warning there by Fisher, as he gained some time. Like, there's nothing worse than trying to stop yourself from getting the warning and going extra slow and still getting the penalty. But
Yes.
it's just like, nah, suffer, getting the penalty and going straight across. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things that can happen around here, but I always find very shaky. Oh dear, Matterford was getting all over the grass there. For a minute, I thought he was going to be shaping up a move, but maybe he just got out a little bit too wide out of the Dunlop curve.
I think Fisher just got a bad run, and Matterford was just like, oh, sweet, I'm going to try and go past you, but the track ran out of room, really. And,
Yes, and yeah, Fisher does seem to be struggling a little bit at the moment, so Matterford will be rubbing his hands together, although he won't rub them together too often, given that he is still
Oh, sorry, all I can do is laugh there. That's quite hilarious. Oh no.
Oh dear.
It's pulling over and stopping and going. Or maybe hardware failure?
I have a feeling it stalled it. Must have had a...
Yeah, hardware failure there. I'm thinking like as in...
well, we can't even see what actually happened because it doesn't want to show us, which is very fun.
Yeah, okay. It's
But that's like the 3rd driver I've cursed this week, so
That's right, you're doing really well, Alexis. It's great.
Yeah. Oh, Chris Cooley now coming back at Sasha Def with a 58.897. If you do not mind, that is rapid pace.
Okay, yeah. That's... And that gap that Death had pulled out
Oh
last
dear,
lap?
Manafort's
Ooh,
struggling. Is he just struggling a little bit now?
yeah. I don't know. That's not real happy. Maybe he doesn't have the tire pressure set right, and things are not going plan.
Yeah,
Has
what
hit
he's
it
got
looked like
Lewis right there now.
looked like it possibly hit the wall on the inside too when they stopped on the side, right?
Yes, looked like he may have hit the wall, but yeah, that's
Yes, it's chat's making speculation that they believe the ignition was turned off while driving, so that possibly could have been it.
Oh,
It
I
would
hate
make
that.
sense.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, this is why I have my ignition key bound to a keyboard button.
Yes.
So I can't. So I have to like take my hand up and go and push it. Okay, here we go.
Let's take a quick squiz now, shall we? What has happened here? Oh dear, yep.
Oh, the curb!
Yep, that curb.
Oh no!
When he was going deep to the inside, I was like, oh no, he's hit the curb, hasn't he? So he has clobbered that inside curb, which can be very, very aggressive. Yeah, and had to restart the car after hitting the inside wall and still wasn't, so
covering the damage now, so the car's not definitely won't be looking very straight after that whack. That was a big whack.
I apologise. I
So
sincerely
it was your curse.
apologise to
wasn't just a switch off.
Jared Matterford and his family for the trauma that I have caused in that curse.
See, this is why they won't let us work real motorsport. People would be losing hundreds of thousands of dollars and potentially their own lives. That's crazy.
It's a good thing I'm not a real life motorsports commentator.
Oh man, that curve is crazy. I don't think I've ever seen that before, but obviously that makes a lot of sense. That's a very nasty curve to hit by the looks of it. So I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah,
Not to go there.
It's a doozy, that one. As Babby says in chat, it's a silent kill. You never really expect it, but it always just occurs and happens at the worst moments.
It looks like Chris Killy's made a mistake again because that gap's blown out by over a second in this lap. So yes, and Steve Lewis gets a 15-second penalty for the lap 1 crash.
Yes, I'm not surprised. That was certainly a thing, and Damiano's also picked up 15 seconds, so both drivers who are going side by side there pick up 15-second penalties for just going way too deep, trying to battle each other and ramming the back of another driver. As we got a yellow flag back there, that looks like
And a reset to pits.
that was Glover. So Glover's clearly had a few issues there, and yeah, he's backed out of it. So clearly thinking he's not in with a chance for anything much tonight, and just not really in it. But that's unfortunate.
Sorry about that. I had a little lag out there. Hope I didn't go robotic on anyone.
No, you didn't say anything on my end, so you're all good.
Very good. That's right. It's one of those ones where you hear
Yes. Yes.
And it's not just me stammering away. I blame the internet for all of them. So we got another fastest lap by Death this time. So yeah, Death saw the attack from
Cooley's lost a lot of time on that lap. What? He would have set what, like a 2 minute something last. Like that is quite. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw. Tried to mention it earlier, but I think Chris did that fast lap and has been driving on the limit and made a mistake because I saw the gap drop about a second between 2 micro splits, and I was like, oh, that's been a big mistake. Probably a slight off track or a big, miss of an apex somewhere. And that's just pulling away now because he's again just sort of answering back, saying, "Oh, you want to set the fastest lap? All right, here I go. I'll set the fastest lap and show you how fast you need to go if you want to catch me." So Death might just be driving to keep that gap that he's got, and then doing what they can do to improve it. Once you've got a 3-second gap, you can sort of just play with it from there at this level for sure.
Yeah, no, she is really running, ramping out there right now. What, 2/10 in that first sector alone, just coming through Spoon now, which is a crap corner. Definitely one of my least favorite corners of all time, despite how good this track is.
Oh, okay.
Come through here now with Mike Reel. It just it cambered so strangely.
Yeah.
Like Cooley has now started to find that pace again, so may have just had an off lap and is now starting to set back after Sasha Death out front.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that because that was the talk of the the race last weekend. But this middle pack battle's looking pretty good. Although they seem to be all just driving pretty smooth. No one seems to be doing anything too crazy. We actually got someone, that's Samuel, driving into the pits already. So 14 minutes worth of fuel. Wow, that was a quick pit. Obviously deciding, let's chuck some fresh rubber on, try and set some fast laps and get an undercut on everyone, I'd say. Going 5 to 6 minutes earlier than everyone else. It's only 3 laps here, so that gives you a good chance to actually get up to pace and potentially do an undercut if you think you're faster. Get some fresh air and just go hard.
Yes, certainly, and there should be enough room on the track for Samuel to stretch his legs a little bit out there, so we'll see how that pays off for him. I believe Bubba had a pit stop down, but of course had that incident there with Lewis and Turcolini.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I love when drivers try something. You know, like they're just sitting in a pack and they're like, you know what, I'm gonna throw it up in the air a bit. I'm gonna pit early. I'm gonna go hard. We had last week in the pro, we had, who was it do it? Oh, who is Smith's teammate? What's Cooley? Yeah, actually we did have Cooley do it. Yeah, it was quite exciting. I got excited by the fact that drivers are willing to try stuff. You know, not everyone's like, okay, the optimal thing is go 20 minutes, pit, go 20 minutes, pit. You know, I'll go 5 minutes earlier, I'll go 5 minutes longer. We had a couple of drivers, like I said, do 30 minutes in the first stint and then a couple extra ones, and then do 2 short ones at the end. We'll see how this plays out for Samuel, but again, I really appreciate the fact that he's throwing it all in the wind and just going to go hard, see how it works. I just want to see him get his head down, get some nice laps in.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well give it a go. Like, there's no harm in giving it that crack. You see, Rio has reacted. Mike Rio has reacted to Samuel's pit stop and is now trying to potentially get a little bit of an overcut here because Rio was behind Samuel just before he pits. So this is going to be interesting.
If it was a good lap by Rio, I'd say I still think the especially at 15 minutes, the overcut's surely faster, especially with how long it takes to get the tires up to temperature. Being this is not F1 and we don't have tire blankets, and when the tires aren't fresh and hot when you come out, you got to bring yourself up to pace it a little bit. We'll see if Samuel. It is probably more about the pit stop than anything in ACC. So Real was behind, right? And
Real was behind, yes.
Yes, so the overcut has worked actually. That's pretty comfortable actually.
I wonder if Samuel maybe had just that slight little error in the pits, or maybe Real was just a bit more aggressive coming in.
Definitely, didn't look too happy on those cold tires though. Coming onto the straight there, got a little clip of the grass and got a bit unsettled. So if the lap had 1 or 2 of those moments in it, it could just be the fact that the lap time was not quite that fast as well.
Yeah, either way, this is a nice strategy play by Mike Reel, and he now finds himself in a much nicer position.
Awesome. That's, well played. again, real Samuel taking the gamble, but it's not paying off. And now Piper comes in the pits too. So everyone's starting to calm in.
Yeah, you've got Johnston, Piper, and Tonkin in the 69 entry.
Very nice.
Yes, very nice indeed.
So, this is about where we'd expect most people to be pitting, somewhere between the 18-minute mark and the 22-minute mark.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's been interesting that we've had a couple of people deviate from that. As wow, Death's now pulled that gap to nearly 4 seconds now. So again, probably just driving by the delta, just looking at the delta, going, yeah, you got a little bit closer. Right, time for me to go a bit faster again, and just cruising around.
You know, they're certainly putting in a nice drive tonight. Of course, plenty of pit stops, so plenty of time for things to go wrong if they are to go wrong. But we'll keep an eye on when drivers are coming out of the pits now. Looks like Johnson's coming out of the pits. Piper will come out of the pits very, very shortly. Should see Piper over to the left there. There he is. So he's come out a little bit behind these drivers.
Was Piper ahead?
No.
Piper what? No? Okay. Alright.
I don't think Piper was ahead of these drivers.
I'm trying to think. My brain's just... Who were they? There was a three-way battle. Was Piper just behind them? Piper must have been just
Yeah, Piper was a bit behind them, I think.
Okay. Very cool. Well, seems to have all panned out, although, again, Samuel's caught right up to the back of Rio.
Yes, he has, and he's got a little bit of time now to shape up a move if he wants to. Keeping up, see, hairpin there is a potential opportunity, but it's definitely not the most ideal.
Oh, that's right. So again, I just had a momentary little drop there, but it's
That's okay.
I'm not quite sure what's going on. It should be fine. I have no reason to be having drops. I literally just got off the back of streaming and it worked perfectly the whole time. So it's looking all right now. So again, this is definitely the closest battle on the field, as we've got 5 or 6 cars in the pits there now. Ricker, Paulie, Fisher, Lewis, Medford, and yeah, and that's everyone. That's pretty much everyone pitting. No, the front pit guys and girls are all going.
Yes.
Actually, quite long.
Yeah, we're still waiting on Death, Cooley, Dreyer, and Cook to come into the pits.
Yeah, it's amazing actually. They're all going. I guess they're filling up for more because they thought, oh, we're out front, so we're going to have clean air. It's not going to need a pit early. You tend to want to pit a little bit early.
So
here we go.
There is Ricker up there, just ahead of Mike Reel. So Reel is up in P7 at the moment, provisionally of course, with a few drivers yet to pit, and of course we've got Ricker there, just up ahead. So those tyres on the BMW will be a little bit cold, which gives Mike Reel a potential opportunity to shape up a move early on. If he wants to do it, I'd say this lap is his best opportunity as he gets on the... Oh, that was loose.
That was very sideways. We are in Japan, so maybe he's doing a bit of Tokyo drift action.
JDM.
Mm-hmm.
Death and Cooley and Dreyer have all come to the pits. We'll see if Cook follows suit. I would say he would, unless he wants to have that Goldilocks moment of being in the lead of a race. No, he does come in.
No, there we go. All right, so everyone has now done a pit or in the pits.
Yes, indeed. So we'll see where all these drivers come out. I'd say it will still be Death and then Cooley, but be interesting to see where Dreyer and Johnston are in relation to each other. I think Cook will be a bit further back, but Johnston is currently there in P5, and he's a little bit up the road. So Death has come out of the pits, followed by Cooley. Here is Ash Johnston. Keep an eye on proceedings. The number 70 is just coming out of pit lane now. this is going to be... So Drea is going to come out a little bit ahead right now. Oh, Johnston, very loose. Does he keep it on the track? Yes, he does. Oh dear, that was quite the moment there for Ashley Johnston, but he manages to keep it going. Wow, that was very interesting. But yes, so our order is Death, then Cooley, Drea. Johnston will be corrected into P4. Then we'll keep an eye on where the rest of these drivers are. I'd say it'll be Ricker, Real, then Samuel will be in, then Piper, and we'll see who will come through next. Paulie and then Cook. So there is your top 10. Cook is quite close to Paulie at the moment. Death is only about 3 seconds clear of Cooley at the moment. So Cooley may have just found a little bit in the pit stop, but it's going to be a tough ask for him if he wants to gain time. But here is Paulie and Cook. Cook has just come out of the pits, so this will be an interesting battle to keep an eye on with the 196 Aperture Laboratories Lamborghini and the number 15 CGFK McLaren. Oh, that is very wide for Paulie. This might open the door for Cook if he wants to use the slipstream going to 130R. He'd pretty much have to make sure that he gets the move done before he gets to the corner. He's got the overlap now. Is he going to keep it there, or is he going to have to back out of it? Oh, yeah, he backs out of it. That's smart. Smart stuff from Cook. But Paulie goes off the track slightly, nearly contact with Cook, and Cook gets around the outside and up into P9. So good racing there, forced Paulie into a few mistakes, and has managed to consolidate a P9 position for now with 34 minutes and 40 seconds remaining. Wow, that is exciting stuff. Now, looking throughout the field, we do have a few close battles. Piper is slowly closing in on Samuel, who just doesn't quite have the pace of Micro at the moment. Then Johnston as well, a second back from Drea, but right now we are looking at the battle between Samuel and Piper. Piper just following along now. You do have Real just a little bit further up the road, but yeah, he's got maybe just a little bit of a pace advantage, as does Ricker, who is in P5 there. Doing a nice race there in that BMW, we'll say. It's certainly not the greatest car in the world, but right now Ricker's doing a nice solid job in it, I would say. But Samuel here, currently P7 in the Three Pyramids Racing entry. Got a little bit of pressure from behind, but he's also got a little bit of intention ahead of him. We'll keep a close eye on proceedings. Of course, we do have the Pro Finals coming up in about 45 minutes for your qualifying. Some very, very, very fast drivers in that split, so do stick around. I believe we have a potential Sneakers double joining the commentary booth for that one, but we still have 33 minutes to go in this one, and each driver will still have to make one more pit stop. But this battle between Real, Samuel and Piper has closed up a little bit. Now only 8/10 between Real and Samuel, and just under that between Samuel and Piper. So these drivers are very, very closely matched on pace. But Johnston in P4 is nice and tight there with Drea. So I believe we have a little bit of a potential sneak peek at the Pro Finals commentary, as we have JP Sneakers in the booth. Welcome.
Good evening. How are we doing? This looks
Yes.
like a fun race so far.
Yes, doing well. Unfortunately, Justin seems to have had a few issues, so we have a quick fire replacement in JP. Thank you for coming into the box.
Not a problem. I cooked my wife a nice steak, so I bought myself a little bit of good graces for tonight. And yeah, look forward to what's happening in the pros. But first, we have to get through this race, which, apart from the top two who's running away with it, seems pretty exciting.
Yes, no, there's a little bit of excitement going on. So we had Cook making a very nice move on Paulie just earlier, and we've got this battle pack now forming. Real was able to get past Samuel in the first of the two pit stops, so a little bit of an overcut working in favour of the McLaren driver in that beautiful Bonsoy livery. And then further up the road, we've got Dreyer and Johnston, the two FPS Evolve Racing teammates, having a little bit of a battle. But right now, they're separated by about 0.8 of a second.
Some close racing. I saw the overtake from Cookie around outside at the chicane, which was beautiful. And yeah, these two pit stop races definitely spice things up quite a bit and throw the strategy into the mix at least. With the one stop, it's a little bit trickier to get those undercuts done, but you have a little bit more grace to play with here and potentially dive into the pits at an odd time and get the driver ahead of you spooked and potentially get that undercut done. So it'll be interesting to see if Samuel is able to get back past, whether on track or in the next pit stop.
He is looking a lot closer now. Has managed to pick up a little bit of the pace compared to what he had before. This is nice stuff from these drivers so far. They've kept it very clean and consistent, and sort of been stuck in a little bit of a battle between themselves for a little while now. Piper behind is looking very, very racy, so Samuel has to have one eye forward, one eye in his mirrors, because the promotable esports entry of Benjamin Piper is ready to capitalize on any mistake or rash move he makes.
I think the problem for Piper here is the McLaren and the Ferrari is super strong in that first sector, and the Audi is a little bit weaker there, but it is super strong in that final sector, so he could potentially get a good run down through 130R and make a potential move into the Casio triangle there. But first you need to get close enough, which that part he has covered so far, and that's quite a nice livery on Ramez's car there. It looks like a hieroglyphs or something.
Yes, well, he is running 3 Pyramids Racing, so I would assume that it would yes be hieroglyphs. Oh, that got very, very close. Maybe just a little bit of that rubber banding effect from the ping. But Piper is still very, very close, but we've also got to keep an eye on Rio and Samuel, because Samuel is equally as close to the back of the McLaren.
Yeah, this is the type of battle group where the smallest mistake could potentially cost you 2 positions, so Rio needs to keep his cool here. Sasha Depp does a cool 158.8, which is let's just say that's a fairly quick time even in quali trim, so it's a little bit deep from Ramez there. Might compromise the exit if Piper can get a good run. It's not quite close enough on this occasion, but yeah, it's interesting to see how it plays out with the car's different strengths throughout the lap. You can see Real is very strong in the first sector, but Ramez closes down in that final sector, and 28 minutes remaining. It's starting to get into that period where the next undercut might come into play as well.
Yes, and I believe it was Samuel who took that early opportunity with only 14 minutes run coming into the pits, and then Real following up the lap later with the nice use of the overcut to get ahead. But now Samuel is starting to attack, although Real's got a little bit in that first sector, and Piper is right there with Ramez.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Ramez's brother Shady does in the Pro Series as well. Had a very good race last week. This week maybe not so favorable for the McLaren as it was at Paul Ricard, but Real seems to be doing pretty well in it so far, and of course 2 there in the top 4. Piper, he's looking the more aggressive out of this 3 at the moment, but just not quite close enough in the right spots to go for a potential move. And this is still very much the closest battle pack on the track at the moment, as that Johnston-Dreyer battle seems to have beaten out a little bit at this stage.
Yes, it has. Dreyer's just managed to find the pace in those tyres there. One of the last drivers to come in, along with Def, Cooley and Cook there from that first round of pit stops. The second round of pit stops will begin, I'd say, in another few minutes. It wouldn't surprise me if Samuel is again one of the first to bite on the pit stop, given he is a bit stuck in a sandwich right now.
Yeah, you would imagine that he has a little bit more pace in the car. Last lap at 2:08. His fastest lap is at 2:02. So there's definitely more pace in it. Is he going? He is going for the pit lane, and Benjamin Piper follows him in, takes it over the grass there. That's a risky move coming into this pit lane, and Piper very aggressive onto the line. That would have gained him a fair amount of time there coming into pit lane, and now it's up to these drivers to get this pit stop absolutely on the button, or Piper could get past Samuel here in the pit lane.
Oh, this is gonna be fun. It's... Oh. Ramirez is obviously the clear favorite, but you do have to get your positioning right, and you also have to make sure that you are straight on the button when you are into the box and out of the box. So
There's so many little steps that you have to take, turning the car off before you stop turning the car on once it's back up, and then timing that the ignition and starting the car right at the last second, making sure that it started as you drop. There's a lot of elements there where you can potentially lose a little bit of time, as it looks as though Justin Tate has been able to rejoin us.
does seem that way, although we'll give him a little bit of time to resolve things, as Piper has come out very much clear of Samuel. So I reckon Samuel may have had a little bit of an error on his pit box entry. So Piper's been able to come out ahead and now has clear track to potentially get an undercut opportunity on Mike Reel.
That's
Hey,
what
I
I
am
was just.
back. I'm so sorry about that. Thank you very much, Peach, for jumping in. That turns out someone accidentally broke the Ethernet cable that was. So I have a studio, and someone's just oopsied the Ethernet cable. So it's it dropped. It actually just died. It was sitting very temporarily, and they're like, I think that's okay. And then once they walked away from it, stopped working. So but they wouldn't admit it. They were a little bit sad. They were like, oh, sorry. Because I was like, what's wrong with it? It was working and now it's not. But hey, my problems are gone, and we should be up and solid for the rest of the night. And
I'm
cool.
not an internet technician, but as far as I know, they work much better when the cables are like connected.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's good. That's been able to solve. But the question here at the moment in the race, when is Mike Reel going to dive into pit lane? He stayed out for another lap, so he's not appearing to be too worried about the undercut. He's gonna run it a little bit longer, potentially have the lighter or the fresher tires towards the end of the race. Oh, he goes very deep there at Dunlop, which is not somewhere you want to dip a wheel in the grass, because it will just pull you off the track there.
Yeah, no, it's like a magnet out there if you go a little bit wide, and Reel's really pushing. That is quite wide there at the second of the Degner curves.
Yeah, making sure these early pit stoppers are not going to end up undercutting him. He's been driving a pretty solid race from what I saw. Again, I missed out in the last 10 or 15 minutes, but it appears to have stayed roughly about, with all the gaps looking very similar to what they were. No one's really made any huge errors or big gains that I can tell. Am I right there? Is anyone jumped up a heap or come a cropper? No?
It's all stayed pretty stable. Though you just as you are disconnected, you missed a very good battle between Cook and Paulie, with Cook coming on top.
Oh wow.
But Paulie there,
Yeah,
unless...
Paulie has come out ahead of. No, okay.
No, okay. I was wondering whether it was still updating or not.
For a minute, I was concerned as well.
But yeah,
Reel
so
is in.
Piper, there goes Reel. Piper got the undercut done in the pits on Ramez in the pit stops, Justin. So he's come out a fair chunk ahead, and out of the free between him and Ramez and Reel, he was looking like the faster of the free. So it's going to be very interesting to see where he will come out in relation to Mike Reel, as we saw Reel just pulling into pit lane there.
All right,
Yeah.
so it's this mid-pack battle is really stayed spicy, which is good.
Yes,
It's,
it has been the main source of excitement tonight. There's been a few other battles throughout. Johnston was up nice and close to Dre before, but Dre has been able to stretch his legs, and Sasha Death is still very fast out front. She's 4.7 seconds clear of Cooley.
Yeah, she feels like she's just playing gap management at the moment, just doing the Verstappen. Yeah, he's doing the Verstappen moment and just zooming along, keeping his pace. Probably a bit of, knocking on the back door saying, please let me through. I'm a lot faster than you right here. And but it's not. This is just almost a no passing zone unless the person in front nearly falls off the track until we get to the deck. There's a possibility if you get a good drive out of here. But no, very solid exit there actually. By Lewis, is it? That's Lewis, right?
No, real.
Yeah. Real.
I mean, to be honest, this whole track feels like a no overtaking zone pretty much. It's so difficult to get an overtake done here. There's a couple of opportunities, and I think the best opportunity pretty much is the Casio Triangle.
Oh!
Saying that, Benjamin Piper makes the hairpin an overtaking opportunity, and he sends it up the inside. I'm not sure if that was intentional or just maybe a slight misjudgment, but good heads-up driving by Real ahead to pull out of it ever so slightly and give the space so there's no contact. And yeah, I think Piper and Real both need some new pants right at the moment.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a very brave move to go for. A bit of a send, but again, well played by Real to keep an eye on the mirror and go, oh, that car's poking its nose down the inside. If I turn in now, it'll be ruining my race. I'd rather just run a little bit wide and keep my position. Great driving.
Yeah, Piper is really trying to force the error now while those tyres are still a little bit cold, but that's brought Samuel back into the equation. But now you'd think Real would be able to start using those tyres.
Yeah,
they should be almost up to 10 by now. It's a full lap, and that's roughly when the tyres start working, but Piper is still looking mighty aggressive, and these guys, we always say it, they can't afford to battle too hard because Paulie behind him on track is only 4 seconds. He's taken about 2 or 3 tenths out of them on that lap as well, so there's still 20 minutes remaining. That's a lot of time for 4-second gap to potentially drop down a little bit if they were to battle throughout the rest of the race.
Yes, and anyone else that's running a slightly alternate strategy potentially could be getting a jump on these guys. Is that possible, do you think? Was there anyone that was close enough to them? Or was it really these guys on an island by themselves?
George Cook wasn't too far behind. I think he was about 2 or 3 seconds behind the group as well, because he was in that battle with Paulie, although Paulie has lost a bunch of time, so he may have had a bit of a poor first sector. But Cook was in that battle with Paulie, so he's also not too far behind these guys. He's running a little bit longer at the moment, as we can see. So it'll be, I think he's the only one that's really a potential threat, but it's a long shot for Cook.
He'll be a few seconds out of Paulie, but yeah, no, he's got a little bit to gain if he wants to get into this battle with Real, Piper and Samuel. But if these three keep battling, he's got a chance.
This is pretty close, this Audi. I definitely don't think it's running much wing because it gets right up behind Real here as we come through 130. What's it called? 130R? Is that right?
Correct,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, 130R. I did get it right. Hey! It's been a long time since I've actually done a race here, but it's one of the most famous tracks in the world, actually. It's quite iconic how fast and flowing it is. Sorry?
Great run for Piper there, and the McLaren isn't particularly strong out of that final chicane. Is he going to be... Oh, he pulls alongside, he sends it up the inside. There's going to be contact. Real is way off there. Will Ramez be able to get through? He's pretty much through, but Real gets a pretty strong exit. I think he has to settle back in behind of Ramez, and that is, I think, what is referred to in the business as a bump pass. and there may be a steward's review of that. Piper was fairly optimistic there, a little bit of an aggressive move, but I'm sure the stewards will say what they think, and maybe Real will be stewing a little bit after that.
Yeah, no, that wasn't the cleanest move in the world. It was certainly on, but yeah, no, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't really know. I'd love to see another angle because it sort of changed on me as I was watching it. I was like, oh, the move's on. It was, and then it was like, where did they run a little bit too wide? Did Piper run a bit too wide and lean on Real, or did Real turn down a little bit? You know, sort of. You never really know till like get the slow mo replay and the still frames out and you see where the steering inputs are and stuff. But definitely, Piper was all the way alongside, so it wasn't a horrible move by any means.
No, for sure. It wasn't exactly a send, but on the inside, you have to be so brave on the brakes, and there's always that little hint of understeer if you're just a little bit too aggressive into there. And when there's a car on the outside, there's not a lot of room. It's the sort of racing line is to drift out towards the outside there, but I don't know. It's hard racing. It'll be interesting to see if it gets reviewed or not.
I reckon the stewards will have a look at it, but I'd say at most it'll be maybe a 5-second penalty. That is a send from Samuel. Oh dear, that was quite the send.
We're getting it back, and now
But-
the Ferrari's riding the toe down the straight. Will it be faster
Yeah,
than the
but
Audi?
the Audi's gotten a fairly solid exit, I'd suggest, although it's going to be tied into turn one. No, that Audi just has a bit too much pace. But that was quite the send from Samuel. As Piper's gotten a little wide. Can Ramirez get up into... No, but he's showing cracks in that Audi skin as Death now comes into the pits with 15 minutes to go.
Yeah,
Just to point out there as well, Paulie back down to 4 seconds after the amount of fighting between these guys. That's over a second, again closed down in a lap. So I'm not sure what happened on the previous lap where he lost quite a bit of time, but it just shows you the battling, the fighting between these three is going to allow Paulie to potentially close back up. And don't forget that George Cook was ahead of Paulie. He's around that gap, so if they battle too much, he could potentially come out right in this battle after the pit stops.
and
Yes.
this Ferrari's looking very, very racy. I got a feeling we might be seeing some more sends and passes. At least these guys are providing some entertainment for us. Again, it's been I wouldn't say a stale race, but it's been a very methodical race out front. Everyone's just driving to their numbers and putting their laps in. Although this last stint has been quite long by a lot of drivers here. Everyone getting in on the pits right now, though. There's only one driver that hasn't pitted yet, but they might be pitting this lap as well.
Yes,
Surely
well-
it'd be pitting now.
Well, it might not be so methodical for the upcoming pro splits. Hearing
No.
word from Benjamin Hignett that there is rain in 10 minutes in the pro split, so they're currently in practice. And
Right.
they have a bit of rain on their radar as, yeah, Ramirez is really trying to shape up the road. What's the mistake from Benjamin Piper? Can he get the exit? It's going to be tight now. Yeah, he's got a decent enough exit, but can he consolidate that? This is right
This
in the
is
car.
it.
They're very, very close as Cook has now dropped. Where is Cook going to come in? He's going to come in a little bit behind these guys, but this is going to be very tight into turn one. No, he has to back out of it.
Yeah, I think just pulled out a draft a little bit early. Stopped the momentum that he had. That Audi definitely has some legs on it, so had to sit in that draft for probably another probably another meter or half a meter or so. Although look at this, Real is all over the back.
I
Yeah,
don't
old
think the
Samuel.
Ferrari has the legs to
No.
get past on the Audi, unfortunately. The Audi is super strong on the straight line and its acceleration zones. And then, yeah, a little bit tricky through the SS where it appears to be a little bit of a handful, I will say. And based on the confirmation and a lot of screaming from my brother, I would say it's a bit tricky through the twisties.
Cook has come out well behind Paulie. 1.6 seconds behind Paulie. I wonder if Cook had a little bit of an error in his pit stop.
That is
Yeah.
entirely possible. As we've mentioned before, the pit stops are super, super tricky. But look at that gap to Paulie behind Mike Real, 2.7 seconds. That's another 1.3 second gap closing. And Benjamin Piper has been hit with a 5-second penalty for that incident
Yep.
with Real a couple of laps ago. That's a fair penalty, I guess, based
Yeah.
on the angles that we got of it. That seems pretty fair. Not too harsh, but it was a little bit of a bump pass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's-
the little slap on the wrist, right?
That's the penalty that I was expecting to come out of that. It was either going to be just a reprimand or a 5-second penalty in my book, and I think that has been adjudicated correctly. As
Oh, wow.
that was a poor run through 130R by Samuel, and Mike Reel's gotten extremely close now, but won't have the exit speed in that McLaren.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how much that McLaren just loses off that last corner.
That
Every
Ferrari
single
got a
time.
nice run though.
Yeah,
Beautiful run. The McLaren just really struggles with that sort of transition from the right-hander into the left-hander to carry the speed over the curb. Look how close he gets to Piper into turn 2 or turn 1 or whatever that corner is called as they come
That
into
is
the
turn 2,
S's.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. And he gets nice and close to him, but Piper got a great exit out of turn 2 into the S's, and he opens the gap back up a little bit again. It's such a nice section when you get it right, but it's all about that rhythm, and it's so difficult to follow this closely behind another car through there.
So I'm just looking at the track map, and it's a strange anomaly. So that is turn 1 and turn 2, but is classified as a complex known as first turn. So first turn covers turn 1 and turn 2.
okay.
Japanese efficiency.
I was going to say, yeah, it's a Japanese thing.
Yeah. So,
That's fair enough.
Yeah,
It's
interesting.
it is definitely like a double motion on the wheel, though. You know, you're not just doing one smooth turn or anything like that. It's you turn, you straighten up, and you turn again.
Well, you do straighten up a little bit, but it's not completely straight. But then again,
yeah.
you're barely running your wheel completely straight around here. The only time you're running it completely straight is when you are going down the start-finish straight, pretty much.
Yeah, even this backstretch is quite a bit of a turn for a while of it.
Yeah, you get this
straightens up
little
here.
bit of a straight. Oh!
Ooh, you don't want to take too much curb there, Ramez, and he keeps it nice and tidy, but that's going to affect his run into chicane, and he goes very deep. He takes the alternate line, and that is going to allow Mike Real to get through, and he will lose a bunch of time. Now he's under pressure from Paulie. You've got a great exit, especially compared to Ramez, but he goes a little bit wide into the grass, into a wall, and I think George Cook was able to avoid him, and he will now be right on the back of Ramez Samuel. But that is a tragic ending there for Brendan Paulie, trying to take advantage, and he just dipped the wheel in the grass and said hello to the inside wall there.
Yeah, no, it's just that. Mate, yeah, I mean, to be fair, you're not really making moves there very often, but by that point, Samuel had well and truly rejoined the track, and it was up to Paul in that instance to make the move clean, and unfortunately, he just maybe overestimated how much speed he could carry through there.
Yeah, eyes lit up and like saucepans, and was like, "Oh, here's my chance!" And I've run out of track. Got a little bit wide on the grey stuff. Obviously, that corner has a bit of demand for grip around it, and sliding wide onto the grass, and then it was much harder. Bit of a passenger moment there after the grass touch happened. So, they're still circulating, but unfortunately, that's going to make it hard.
Managed to very nearly do that to myself last night on a safety car restart when I tried to go early and I was drifting wide. I was like, oops, this is going to be an embarrassing restart on a safety car, but fortunately managed to avoid the grass. But it's one of those where if you touch the grass, that it's over. You're not saving it. I don't think the best driver in the world will be able to save it. You're spearing across the track into a wall, but maybe Sasha Dev would be able to save it based on the absolutely stonking lap time. He just put in a 1:58.7. That is a impressive lap time for a pro in qualifying, and Sasha Dev doing that casually in the race.
Yeah, no, they are flying it right out front right now. So we look at Mike Real, who's really picked up the pace now, but of course Pipe with that 5-second penalty, and Samuel is all over the back of Cook as well. So a few battles
Samuel
now forming late on.
Samuel's ahead of Cook there on the latest timing update.
Yes. Yeah. Samuel stayed ahead of Cook. Yeah. I don't think Cook actually overtook after Samuel's rejoin. So
How far behind is Paulie in all this? About 6 seconds, so he's definitely out of the running in terms of this battle. But Cook is piling the pressure on, and still has 7 minutes remaining, so that's quite a few laps. Will he be able to get something done? We've seen him do a beautiful move around the outside of the chicane. Maybe he can attempt that again if Ramirez gets a bit of a poor run through 130R.
yeah, but that was a nice clean run there by the Ferrari there, through Dunlop. Of course, trying to make a move into Degner is riding a death wish. Of course, we saw quite the calamitous accident early on in this race with Lewis and the two Porsches of Glover and Turcolini.
Yeah, that was quite an incident. It was.
Yes. It was an incident, to say the least, or in the wise words of Charles Leclerc, just an incident.
It'll go into the textbooks of how not to go into Degner 1 on lap 1. I think that's a very good example of how not to do that. But let's see if Cookie can get a good run out of Spoon here, one of my least favorite, if not least favorite corner in motorsport. And he seems to have gotten a good run, but he's potentially not going to be close enough to get alongside. Very, very tricky to follow through 130R at full speed. He takes a lot of curb there, but manages to keep nice and straight. Great run. Moves around to the outside, a little bit early on the brakes. Ramirez is deep, and Cookie just not quite able to get completely side by side there. But that was good defense by Ramirez as well.
Yeah, great defense and great run there by Cook. That was a really nice run, but these two have to remember that Piper has that 5-second penalty ahead, so they've got to keep within that 5 seconds. They're well within that at the moment, of course, but they don't want to be fighting too hard.
Yeah, it's another position on the track. I was going to say it's another position on track though. You can't. It's it's like a bone to a dog. They're going to be like, oh, but I want to be the one in front. So it's and Cook's been waiting for this all race. Slowly been reeling these guys in front up the whole last half of this race after a poor start, but looking very, very racy too. At the back, Samuel's here. Oh man, just applying the blowtorch like crazy.
Again, you don't want to be making moves into Degner, so I'm glad Cook held back, but into the hairpin you do have a chance, but he was just a little too far back on this occasion. But he's got the pace. He absolutely has the pace, does George Cook.
I think he's just applying the blowtorch. He's just keeps showing half a car's here, half a car there, just to keep saying, look, I can have a little look here and I can have a little look there. Wow, Josh is just going faster and faster. It's really nice.
I wonder, that could potentially be roughly the same, if not slightly faster than what Sasha did in qualifying, as they now have 12.2 seconds over Cooley.
That is. I did about 120 laps of practice in the last week, and that equals my PB in quali with like 3 liters of fuel. So yeah, that's
Cook is having a go into the Casio. That's tight, tight.
Well, too tight. And he does a beautiful little pirouette there and gets going again. Cut across the grass. Don't cut too fast. You will get a double warning if you're not careful there, and that could potentially lead you to a drive-through if you're not already on a couple of warnings.
But that pretty much kills any chance of Cook moving up any positions now, because he is well behind Piper at this stage. But Piper is still under a lot of pressure from Real. This has been a nice solid race from Mike. Kept it really clean and consistent.
Mike is he's a very, very consistent driver, but he's always been a little bit unfortunate in those sort of lap 1 situations, just based on where he is on track. But if he can get through that, he always gets solid like top 10 results, and he's always just there, solid, consistent laps. And in a side-by-side battle, he's a very good driver to be alongside. He gives a lot of respect, but he races hard. And we saw a little bit earlier, Piper doesn't mind racing hard, so I'm sure Real will want to get one back on track, but try and do it as cleanly as possible. It's only 2 minutes remaining. Sasha Dev is about to cross the line, so that means there will be one more lap after this as well. So these guys still have 2 more laps to battle it out.
Yeah, so plenty of time to go. In fact, yeah. So these guys will have another 2.5 laps to go of battling.
Of course, this is pretty much an irrelevant battle. If Real just stays there, he will automatically get the position. But as a race car driver, Justin, you'll know this.
It's always more
win that
satisfying
penalty.
than hanging on track.
You never know. These things can get removed later on with an appeal or something like that. I have literally lost the state championship due to that once, where I was like, this is fine. He's got to get penalised for that. And then they're like, actually, you know what? Nah, we don't need to penalise him for that.
Incident.
Yeah.
Oh
we've
dear,
had
that is
happen.
very wide from Piper. Now that
Ooh.
brings the opportunity in for Real potentially. What's his exit like? Now that McLaren just does not get the run out of the Casio triangle.
Does not, no.
It
I was
really
gonna say-
seems like it doesn't matter what type of exit Real gets out of there. The Audi will just squat and run away from it anyway. So
Either
These
way,
mistakes are pulling Cook in as well, by the way. Sorry, Samuel in. Samuel's getting closer and closer. It's 1.4 now. So, yeah, that's the Cook. Sorry, Samuel might be on the back of this battle if these two do throw hands a bit.
yes, I mean, Real has been brought into this a little bit more now after Piper's little error at the Casio triangle, but Piper being Piper does pull away a little bit in Sector 1 as Cook picks up a 10-second penalty. I'm not surprised by that.
just noticed as well, Max Ricca is only 6 tenths behind Ashley Johnston. So that gap has come down a significant amount as well. Running out of time a little bit. There will be one more lap after this, and the BMW is fairly strong in the straights. So if he can get that sort of final chicane just right and get nice and close to Johnston, there's potential for an overtake here on the final lap as well for P4.
Been a quietly confident race there for Ricker. He's picked up pace magnificently. Before he was only a few seconds ahead of the likes of Real, Piper and Samuel, but is now nearly 15 seconds clear. So had a very good final stint and is now potentially shaping up a P4 finish, although it's going to be a tough ask. Now here is Real, who is getting very, very close going towards 130R. He's got to hold that line and potentially have a go into the Casio triangle. Piper is very wide and will... Oh dear.
Piper's got to stop though. This has brought Samuel right back into it. This last lap's going to be really tight between this bunch. Look at the line difference that the Audi's able to drive through there. Just holds tight and zooms away. Yeah, that was a really good angle there from the chopper. Just to see the difference in those cars and lines that they're taking there.
Thank you, Chopper Cam. But look at Ricker now. He's really pushing Johnston around this track. Not literally, but more metaphorically. As Johnston has a...
Much then took way too much of the curve there in Degna 2, but Sasha Dev, no mistakes from him today, absolutely smashed the competition. 20 seconds to Chris Cooley, who is absolutely no slouch. Chris Cooley coming through the Casio triangle for the final time. He will take to P2 again, same P2 and P1 we had from last week as well. Good performance from him in a car that's not quite as favored as the Ferrari here, so he won't be happy, but he'll not be too disappointed with that result.
Now Cooley will be relatively pleased with P2. Yes, it's 22.8 seconds behind, but that Aston Martin is not favoured at all. Dre there in P3, solid race from him. And
the drifts.
Where's Johnston?
Yeah, where
is Johnston?
up the road.
Oh,
Ricker made a mistake.
Yeah, Ricker must have fallen off the track somewhere, but just doing some drifts at the end there.
Piper is going to hold P6 on track, but will lose position to Real and Samuel as a result of that 5-second penalty he picked up for that contact with Real at turn 1.
No, still a great battle though. That was really well driven by everyone in that battle. I really, like I said, mid pack carried the entertainment this this race. Fantastic. As Cook comes across the line, and Tonkin as well.
So Tonkin got bullied a little bit earlier in the race as well, but after that, a pretty boring race for him there. And Jai Fisher and Steve Lewis, the last two drivers who is going to cross the line. Of course, Lewis involved in that shenanigans on lap 1 at Tegna. So just finishing the race is already a better result than the two Porsches were able to do. And that is going to round out the Pro-Am Finals round 2.
Yes, and
Indeed.
very, very soon we'll be jumping across to in
wet
about 7
server.
minutes. A wet server. You're saying it now. It's wet, is it?
It's right.
That's
It just stopped raining in the practice server, and it's cloudy now. So it'll be interesting to see if it's wet in quali or not.
So that was the Pro-Am Simagic GT3 Cup Australian Motorsport Series. Sorry, Australian Esport Motorsport Series. Brought to you by OR. Hang around. We'll be back in about 5 minutes or so, 6 minutes or so, and we will see you all very, very soon. It's been Alexis and JP filling in very nicely. Thank you very much for quickly jumping in while fix my internet troubles. Shout out to chat. Hang around. We're about to see the fastest Australian drivers race it out. See you soon.
Change just to call you mine.
Try to turn you off, but you never had an off switch. Yeah. Trying to make you stop, girl, I wish you would've told me. Oh, had you in my bed, now you all up in my head. Never thought I'd feel so lonely. Wish I would've known, I wish you would've told me. But you don't wanna talk about it. Talk about it. But you never had a low speed. Ay. And I've been feeling cold, thinking about the old me. Yeah, I'm out of my head, trying to deal with my emotions. I know what I felt when we dove into the sheets. Wish I would've known, I wish you would've told me. But you don't wanna talk about it. talk. You don't wanna talk. You don't wanna talk. But you don't wanna talk about it. Talk about it. Had you in my brain, now you're all up in my head. Never thought I'd feel so lonely. Wish I would've known, I wish you would've told me. You don't wanna talk about it. You don't wanna talk about it, baby. You don't wanna talk about it. Talk about it. You don't wanna talk about it.
When I think of every time you let me down, I start to lose control. A lot of weakness. I never told you I was mad. I held it all inside. It don't even matter now. I wanna leave it all behind. It's all or nothing now. But each time I talk to you, I wanna crawl out of my skin with nowhere left to go. What's going on? I'm not feeling sure the way I did before. Like an empty gun, nothing more to give, purely negative.
Alrighty, welcome back. We are here again with the Simagic GT3 Cup, brought to you by Motorsport Australia Esports Series, powered by Octane Online Racing. I have everyone with me, really. How about we go? We'll go through. It's Glenn on the cams, myself, Justin, and we have JP. And what do I call your gamer tag? Sorry, John.
Just call me John, mate. That
Just call you
works.
John. All right. I was like, do I call you 1NT?
John or the best Sonicus, either or.
Best Sonicus and second best Sonicus.
That's fine. I'll take best looking Sonic. This is fine. That's okay.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, John breaking his comms virginity here in OOR, so go easy on him. Or not, just rip him to shreds. Either way, it's fine. But we are live for qualifying. People starting their first flying laps just about now. Benjamin Hignett, first one out on track, not too far behind him. And then we have, looks like Zach Smith just behind him on track with Mitch Hobbs behind him. So just reading off those names, it's like a veritable who's who of the fastest drivers in the Oceania region, and you just go through the whole entry list there, and it's pretty insane the quality of drivers that are competing in this Simagic GT3 Cup. So good to see Oceanic esports in ACC really getting strong representation here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Most definitely fun to be in the box to finally see these guys do it. As JP says, the fastest of the fast guys here. Got some new names that will be up top today. A couple of cars that are a little bit stronger here than previous tracks. So expecting a very tight one. And I don't know it's a fast track, but are we expecting 57s today?
Say if it does go optimum by the end of quali, I reckon there's about 3 or 4 drivers that can potentially get into the 57s here. But given the fact that it's fast at the moment, I'm gonna predict a pole time of a 58.2.
I'm somewhere along those lines too. I think basing off the Pro-Am times, Death was absolutely flying and set as I think it was a high 4 in the end, setting a 6 early on, and then on their first lap, and then ending up pumping out another 10th and a half or 1.7, I think, 0.17 faster, as we're about to get our first times on the board. Very excited. A few invalidated laps as I look on the track map, actually. But, that's pretty common here to see if people running wide in spots. 59s coming across the board. First 58 there in the McLaren by Morella.
Not a bad little banker there from Morella, but look how close it is. Hignett Houlihan doing exactly the same lap time. Ruden, the odd man out there, a little bit further off the pace. Kobe Chan puts it there into P5 as well. So pretty much low 59s as bankers on which was a fast track, has now gone optimum. So I would say we're very much on for a 57 here if the track keeps ramping up. Akita pops it into pole, only 3/100ths ahead of Morella there, but I think things will progress fairly quickly.
And this Ty, Stephen Ty showing more pace again, just a little bit quicker, as PJ said here, that bankers are rolling up. These are not going to be their drivers' fastest times, you'd hope, because a lot of them tend to really get a wriggle on their second lap once the car is fully up to pace. And then we'll probably see a bunch of them dive in the pits and go for another dash again at the end.
Yeah, this is gonna be a session where you want to be the last one to do a lap, because this track is going to keep evolving. With 26 cars circulating, it'll keep getting faster and faster, as we see Fatih Rahmat there with a 58.7. It's 10th clear of Stephen Ty there. Filippo Bakita here already 4/10ths up, which will put her into the mid 58s, and there's still time to gain. John, we have about 6 minutes remaining. You have to make a call. Who is getting pole here today? You've had some time to watch practice. Who do you reckon is getting pole?
Well, I'd say, firstly, how disgusting it is how long it took me to get into the 58s, and then watching them do it on a fast track on a banker. So I hate every single one of them. But at the same time, I'm gonna look. My brain says Fudley, but my heart says Stevie Ty. So I'm gonna stick with Stevie Ty.
I would absolutely love to see Stevie on pole. He's a bit of a stalwart here in OR and a fantastic racer, and of course it helps when the car is strong at the track. He's very, very good at Suzuka, as we see Bakita there. Will she dive into pole? She does. 3/10ths ahead of Dylan Tande. A 58.3. We are very quickly inching towards the 57s. Dylan Tande with a, what is that, a 0.7. So he still has a bunch of time to find. Of course, a lot of these drivers took part in SRO on Wednesday. Some of them won the race, if I'm not mistaken. So some really, really ridiculously fast drivers here, and Fatih Rahmatia is up by almost 2/10ths coming into 130R. Loses a little bit on the apex, gains on the exit. What will he do through Casio Triangle? Gains all the way in the braking. Takes all of the curb. Little bit missed the apex there, but he's up by not quite enough. He loses some of it coming through that final little bend there, but he will pop into potentially P2 there. Jamie Knoser popping it up into provisional P2 and then gets kicked out there by Rahman.
That's fast by Koza. Fair bit up the grid compared to where they have been last weekend. Man, Rashbro's looking really fast. Dylan's hand struggling to get that BMW up to pace like he did last weekend, although last weekend it was really suited for the BMW. I assume it's not always he kills this lap and he's got to quickly reset and go again.
Yeah, no, it's not exactly the... It's not a bad track for the BMW, but it's not its most favorable track, I would say. But it can do very low 58s, maybe dive into the 57s in the right hands, and Dylan Tan's hands are certainly the right ones to try and attempt that. Zach Smith here in the McLaren, he's 2/10ths up. At the moment, that's enough to move him up into P4. If you can keep it going, comes through 130R. Keeps a lot of minimum speed there, gains a little bit coming into the braking for Casio Triangle. You can see the McLaren just can't take quite as much as... Oh, he takes a little bit too much.
Oh, that's disappointing. He was so far up, but it was going to be more than 4/10ths by the looks of it, so potentially P3.
Well, here comes Fudley. We saw him do 57s in the practice server. High, very high 57s, obviously, but the only car that
Oh.
managed to get into the 57s, and that is properly rapid.
This is looking fast.
As we saw, he got a slightly poor exit out of the final little curve on the previous lap. Can he get it
Oh,
a little bit better planted this time? He takes all of the curb. He gets a slightly worse exit again. Loses about half a tenth, but he gains it as he had that little slide there. So it's 3.5 tenths. That's more than enough to grab pole. And oh, so close to a 57 there.
He'll get one more shot at that if he's quick enough to get around, but it's going to be a tough one to still super rapid though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Very.
really pretty impressive if you consider the fastest times in the world in a normal qualifying session is usually around a high 57s. He's just about a tenth or so off that. So for Kita here, she's gained a tenth in the first sector. She will have one more lap after this if she does have the fuel. She needs to find another tenth or so through the rest
Oh,
of the lap.
wow.
That's gonna all bleed away at the exit of
Yeah.
the hairpin there. It's such a frustrating corner. It's such a hope-breaking delta there. You always look at it and you're like, oh, I gained so much, and then you start accelerating down towards Spoon, and by the time you get to Spoon, you have a negative delta. So let's see if she can gain some through Spoon here.
I think, Justin, I've not had the pleasure of commentating with you before, mate. But may I get your feelings on Spoon, because I know JP's and my own.
I don't know. I've only really, it's been a while since I've driven here, is what I was explaining earlier, and I don't think I despise it as much as everyone else, although I've had some horrible things go wrong to me there. So I have to admit it's definitely not up there on my Christmas list of corners, that's for sure. I'd much prefer many other corners. So yeah, I would say it's one of my lesser favorite corners on this track, but I do appreciate the fact that it often produces the person in front having a little bit of a moment and me being able to get past them down that straight. That's what I appreciate from it.
That's fair. So all I heard there, JP, was that it's the worst corner in the game, and he agrees with us. Okay,
I don't
no, got
speak
it.
Australian, but that's what I took from it as well
It
there.
was along
that's
those runs,
Just while we were waffling about Spoon there, Stephen Ty put it up into P4. He still has one lap to go. Dylan Tan has parked it. He's not partaking anymore. And Filippo Bakita, she invalidated a slight improved lap there. She will have one more opportunity to improve here. Ethan Kale, he's up 2 tenths coming down to the hairpin. He would want to be... Let's see if he loses time in the Bermuda Triangle of deltas there. He loses a little bit on the exit. And now it's just going to keep on dropping ever so slightly as he goes. No, actually, he's... How? What is Delta doing? Okay, there we go. That's normality has been restored. He lost a little bit coming into everybody's absolute favorite corner. Gets a beautiful curved line through there.
Wow.
Gets on the power nice and early. Loses a little bit on the exit, but he's still net up by 0.26, 0.25 probably by the time he reaches 130R. Let's see if he has some time in reserve when he gets down to the chicane.
Yeah, flying through 130. Lots of curbing off the track. Never mind.
Oof.
Oh, that is a big crash. Ouch.
That didn't go according to plan. I was looking at his throttle input and I was like, oh, he's going flat through it. And then I looked up and he was in the wall. So unfortunate there.
Yeah.
Looks though Bakita has parked it. She's done. Ryan Hula and pops it up into P4 right just ahead of Stephen Ty there. Fadli Rahmat here, he's lost a little bit of time at the hairpin. He needs to, well, he doesn't need to find anything really. He's ahead, but if he does want to get into the 57s, he will need to find a little bit of time in this final sector. Kosa is still on a lap. Ty is still on a lap. Kobe Chan still on a lap. Can any of them improve as Kosa comes through the Casio triangle here? He's lost a bit of time there and he's not going to improve. Chan on the other end, up by 4 tenths. Can he get a good exit?
Nearly
Nails the exit. That's going to put him into the top
B2?
3, maybe B2. What a run there by Kobe Chan.
Here it comes. And bang.
Oh, well, P2. Well done.
There we
Oh.
can confirm your grid for today is Fadli Rahmat in the Lamborghini, Kobe Chan in the McLaren, Filippo Bakita in a McLaren, followed by Jamie Kosa in the Ferrari, Ryan Hulan in a McLaren, Stephen Tai in the Lamborghini, Dylan Tan BMW, Ethan Kale Lamborghini, Marino Morella in the McLaren, and Connor Hine rounding out your top 10 in the Pro Finals qualifying here at round 2 at the beautiful Suzuka.
Yeah, and this is totally flipped, like driver lineup wise. So Pip finished P2. She's the closest to where she was, and our pole sitter and race winner 10 is down in P7. Zach, who was on P3, and I think he finished third. I think he
Correct,
finished third.
yes.
Yeah, he's down in P11, so he will not be happy with that. Obviously, not quite happy with his thing. Houlihan's right about where he was racing all weekend. I think he finished fourth and started fifth or sixth. So yeah, a few of the drivers are really the faster drivers. Yeah, not performing as well as they would probably have hoped. I mean, Pip probably just didn't quite get as good a lap as she would have wanted, invalidating and calling it quits on the last 2 laps. Obviously, trying a little bit too hard to try and catch that speedy Lambo as we get a beautiful flyby of all these lovely liveries again.
As we're flying down, we just for those who aren't aware, you do have understandings silver nameplates and or silver numbers and white numbers. Those are the 2 classes that we have. So silver will be your international drivers and the white will be your Australian drivers. There's different prize pools for the different classes, and then based on last week's results, so currently Filippo Bakita is the lead Australian driver on 154 points, Zachary Smith in P2 on 118, and Ryan Houlihan on 101. And then in the international class, Dylan Tan, 138 points, Fadli Rahmat, 97 points, and Dennis Strelnikov. I haven't seen Strelnikov's name. Oh, there is in P14, in on 85 points. So, I mean, it's only one round, so there's obviously still a lot to play for. But yeah, as you said, a couple of drivers not performing as well as they did last week. Of course, the BOP comes into play, and maybe some drivers just don't favor the track. But it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out with this race with the 2 pit stops.
I think definitely the fact that it's 2 pit stops, knowing how difficult it is to pass at Suzuka, it is such a difficult track to get a run on. So we're going to have to see, do you go for an undercut? We know like people like Philippa like to run long, go for that overcut. Tire wear, probably not an issue if you're only running 20, 25 minute stints. So really looking forward to this because you have some guys out of position.
Not sure if you caught the race last weekend, John, but there was some drivers. I'm trying to think if it was it in the pro or might have been in the semi-pro. We had some drivers pushing 30 minutes on their first stint, trying to really extend that first stint to try and do an epic overcut and not be caught up in the battles that we had all throughout the field as well.
Yeah, I saw that. I think like we don't rely on JP when it comes to strategy. I always trust the past people like Philippa, and she tends to always go that 5-6 laps longer, right, Japes? That seems to be her thing, is always making the overcut work.
Firstly, I'm offended, and secondly, yeah, I think it does, especially in a race like this where the tire wear isn't really as big of a challenge. Running that couple of laps longer isn't really going to affect your pace, and you avoid getting into that traffic of the drivers who haven't pitted yet if you just stay out a little bit longer. So it is the smart choice. Apparently I don't know about strategies, but I can say that sounds like the smart choice. And yeah, I think if you're anywhere sort of P4, we saw Hooli pull off the attempted undercut last week. So P4, P5 down, where you're not really in that podium battle, is where you can start looking at potentially going for that early pit stop, or if you're at the front, run it a little bit longer.
So I can tell you that Philippa is fueled for 11 laps. So we're talking 22 minutes, 20 like roughly. So she looks like she'll be splitting it up equally.
So what you're saying is that your prediction of her running long was
It sounded really cool in my head, okay?
She definitely likes the overcut, and she'll probably potentially make that decision the next pit stop as well.
Yeah, of course, you can just add a little bit of extra fuel in the first pit stop to run a little bit longer. And we saw George Cook in that previous race. Obviously, it ended. Ooh, okay. It ended in tears when he had that incident at the final chicane there. But his pace in that final stint, because of the fresher tires, was so much better than those around him, and it could potentially still work out for the drivers here.
I love this formation by the pro drivers here. I was complaining with the the semi-pro. There was a few gaps opened up really wide, but look how tight these guys and girls are running. Yeah, they are very, very close to each other. They don't want to leave any margin at all of the starting line. That looks so good when every car is within about a car length of the car in front.
They are very close to each other, and if you don't mind, I'll take us away for the start here.
Go for it.
As, my stream speeds up. It almost looked like they went up to a racing speed there just for a second, but Fadli Rahmat and Kobe Chan is your front row, and they are leading us away down the main straight as we are about to go racing. Filippo Bikida, Jamie Kosa, Ryan Houlihan, Stephen Ty, Dylan Tan, Ethan Kale, Marino Morella, and Connor Hind rounding out the top 10. We are approaching a little bit of a delayed start here. It's always about a couple of meters later than you expect, but we are about to go green for the pro finals here, and we are going. Dylan Tan with a good launch, nowhere to go there, and Fadli Rahmat has cleared Kobe Chan well and truly, and Dylan Tan up the inside, little bit of a touch there on Jamie Kosa, I think it was, but he gets the overtake done, and now he will have the inside for turn 3 potentially on Houlihan. There's Connor Hind is off in the background there. There's another car on the grass as well. I don't think it's enough to justify a safety car, but we shall see. And it looks as though Houlihan has settled down behind Filippo Bikida into P4. Dylan Tan has gained one position from the start with that very brave overtake into turn 1 and 2. Top 4 seems to have settled down nicely here. Line astern, a little bit behind them. There is still a bit of battling going on. That is... No, it is. Things are updating very slowly. Stefano Ricciuti here in P19. Look at that train ahead of him. That's 5 or 6 cars all within a couple of meters of each other. As Bruno Gallo right ahead of him in the Porsche. Ali Karuden just ahead of him. Everybody, oh, that's a free wide into the chicane. That's never going to work, and that is a McLaren round. Big tragedy at the chicane there. That's Strelnikov.
Oh, no.
This has been a bit of an eventful first lap so far. Quite a few incidents there. It looks as though Shady Samuel also got involved in incidents. He's not had a good week at Suzuka so far this week, but he is up the inside there. I think it's Corey Sweet, and they are still trying to settle down. These guys have dropped right down the order. Strelnikov won't be too happy. I'm not sure who that Ferrari was who sent it up the inside there. I think it could have potentially been Corey Sweet maybe, but yeah, that cost Strelnikov a huge amount of positions. Ethan Kale here up in P7. Look how close the top 5 still are, and they are done for the first lap of racing here.
I'm not sure if you caught it, but halfway down the main straight, probably 5 seconds after the light went green, we had someone about 10th position move across and actually send someone into the wall halfway down the straight. I believe it was the 705 that ended up getting clouted into the barrier on the inside. Oh, Zuka touching!
No!
That is Corey
Sweet,
Sweet, who just went into a wall after contact with Hignett. That is a big accident there for Corey Sweet.
That is sad.
That's a car killer, that one. That is, reset the pits immediately. That was
Bukida. Bukida has made a mistake, and Houlihan is through. Dylan Tan is all over her. Oh, a touch and Tan is off. That's going to allow Zach Smith to come through, as well as Ethan Kale up into P6, and Zach Smith all over Bukida. Bukida must have made a mistake coming through the S's there, allowing Hooli to get through. Kobe Chan is a little bit ahead of Houlihan there, and look at Dylan Tan right on the back of Ethan Kale. Now he's going to be very frustrated by getting bumped off track slightly, and he sends it. Sends it up the inside.
Good avoidance there from Zach, but unfortunately coming way back. Zach's actually had a really strong start from P11 all the way up to P5, but now getting shuffled back a few extra positions again. So that hard work being undone a little bit there by Tan sending it up the inside.
Look, I've seen some sends before, and I've seen misbraking. That was definitely in the latter, where I think he was going to send it and just outbreak himself totally. Well done, these guys, for
Oh, look how fast he's on the straight.
avoiding a big issue. He seems to be running, I guess, a lower wing setup than the rest of them, because even on the main straight as well, he's really like rapid going down there. But that's surely going to be looked at by the stewards.
And that was, he managed to go side by side with Zach Smith there through 130R, and both of them
Zach's
actually stayed on
coming.
track. Zach goes for the mega undercut here. That's going to be an interesting call because he will be in crystal clear air until the next round of pit stops. So maybe not a bad call based on the amount of battling and sending that's been going on in that little battle pack there. Kobe Chan starting to drop off of the back of Fadli Rahmat ever so slightly there, up to nearly a second. Hooley staying in range, and Makita, after all of that battling and tussling that they did on the previous lap, has dropped about a second behind Houlihan now. Even Kale, he'll be happy getting up to P5. Jamie Kosa has dropped down to P6. And Dylan Tan into P7, but I suspect there may be a small slap on the wrists if the stewards do have a look at that. And then throughout the rest of the field, it's good to see a Porsche running in the top 10.
Most definitely. Ali he started way down, didn't he? Like 20th, 18th, 20th about. So he's had an amazing opening stint so far. We know Ali's pretty good everywhere and very consistent, but yeah, he must be the biggest mover so far.
Especially in a car that's not exactly favorable here, but with the amount of bumping and grinding that these guys have been doing, you just need to sort of avoid the contact, and you can gain a couple of positions, as we can see here with him. And it's going to be interesting, that incident between Hicknet and Sweet, how that's going to be viewed, because I think both drivers were just being a little bit silly there, making contact on the straight. It's not hard to avoid contact driving in a straight line, but apparently for those two it was a bit of a challenge at that stage. And Dylan Tan here is behind Kosa now, and he would want to get through as quickly as possible.
I think for anybody that wants to see what the difference is between what we would call a normal race, sprint race, league race, is go and have a look at Kosa in turn 1 and see him choosing life cost him a lot of positions there, because everybody knows how hard it is to overtake here, as we see Fahli Rahmat just go and beat most people's PB in a race lap, and starting to pull out the gap at the front.
Tan beats it.
Yep, exactly. Dylan Tan accepts the challenge, and he proves it by a 10th there.
Obviously, Dylan definitely didn't get the qualifying run he wants. He's doing that in the race, like with obviously more fuel and cars in the way and people distracting, all sorts of things. That's really pacey.
The upset incident between Hicknet and Sweet. So Hicknet seems as though he got a good run coming out of the triangle. Pulls alongside. He's technically allowed the space, and Sweet just drifts across a little bit, and that squeezes Hicknet off track, and Hicknet rejoins into Sweet there. Really, you can see how you can put that on Hicknet, but that is the steward's job of mine, fortunately. I just have to talk about it and pick sides.
Yeah, it's all right. I'll pick the other side then. No, who did you pick? Did you say the car on the outside is the one
I would,
that's in the clear?
I would say Hicknet was maybe a bit of a victim there. I think Sweet came across a little bit too much, and just a little bit unnecessary. You know, it wasn't there was no point in squeezing Hicknet that much.
Yeah, he didn't change his line. That's the key. He stayed dead straight, and the other car moved across into him. So, yeah. No.
As a fellow old person, what I'm going to say is that the other car should not have been there, and Corey is 100% correct in doing whatever he did there.
Yeah. No, that's true. There's a lot of people that say, you know, if you're not all the way alongside me, I'm going to move across and you're going to get out of it. So, yeah.
Oh, that's a bit of a send by Kosa. Up the inside, he avoids. Oh, I think Stephen Ty collected him there. That's going to be a big damage on the car of Stephen Ty. Dylan Tan with the freaking Matrix Neo Ninja reflexes there, misses the contact, and Ethan Kale, I think he got away fairly lightly there, given he was the one getting hit. Didn't lose any positions, and Dylan Tan gets a free one.
Just checking, they teammates, aren't they?
Kosa and Kale, yes, they are actually.
Okay, just double checking. So it's not only our team that does that.
Yeah, it's That's okay. They can sort that out. It'll be a fun 6 hours of Nürburgring next weekend when they're in the car together. And hey, you remember last week when you absolutely dive bombed me? Hey, Neil Alexander Malok in chat. Good evening, Neil. Hope you're doing very, very well. Your drivers on track are doing some entertaining stuff, I would say, so far.
There we go. Here's the replay again. Oh, this turn one. Is it?
This is
The-
turn one.
Oh, the bumping and shuffling. Oh, damn.
Oh no, Shady. Shady's just gone 2 for 2 in 2 nights for turn 1. It's maybe time to pack up his Japanese bags and move on to the next round.
Yeah, I don't think his view of Suzuka has improved this week. Certainly not turn 1, but Jamie Kosa here dropped all the way down to P18. He was running in P6 there for quite some time, but Dylan Tan right on the back of Ethan Kale. He's going to be looking to clear Kale as quickly as possible and get back up to the rear end of Bukita. Bukita is dropping off of Hulahan a little bit in terms of pace. He's 1.3 seconds behind Willie. So not sure if she's maybe struggling after going off or something and the tires just aren't working correctly for her. But Huli putting a lot of pressure on Kobe Chan there at the front end. Dylan Tan goes for the undercut 10 minutes into the race.
That's very early though. That's we'll have a good indication where Zach Smith, I think, is the first of the cars that have stopped. So we'll be able to see the strength of the undercut from that, I assume. But that is very early, so he's going to have to extend one of his stints.
It might explain his pace a little bit too, because he was doing qualifying pace there at the start.
That's a very good point.
To be honest, I think that's just his pace, really. I think he's just bored of sitting behind cars and he wants some clean air. And I mean, to be honest, it's 2 25-minute stints. It's not exactly endurance stints. The pace won't drop off very much, given the amount of laps he's going to have to do. I mean, but we have a little bit of a challenge there from Neil Alexander that I'll throw over to Justin and John here. Explain this race in 4 words.
How many are allowed to be swear words?
All of them, if you want.
Very exciting and very frightening. Ignore the and. That's not a word. That's not a word. Shh.
4 words. Goodness. I'm gonna need to sit on that, I think. It's chaotic, beautiful mess. We're gonna do it in 3. Okay, there it is. There's that little one. That's what I saw at the start. That's why I went, oh, like as before we didn't get the turn round. So,
Marina Morella there, absolutely ghost shot all there.
Wow.
that netcode helped out a lot there, I'd say. Didn't look like too big a touch, although the wheels touching can do funny things to you. That's for sure.
Yeah, a classic Kunos, the car that hits the rear of another car spins out. That's one way to start a race, is to get damage before you even cross the line, essentially. So glad to see him still running, and hopefully he can make some spots back up.
Yeah, and Neil, it's not double Sneakers, it's most attractive Sneakers and fastest Sneakers. So that's
I'll
the
take
name.
that. I'll take that. Never mind. This continues on. Lucas Burst here in P12 in the Pika GTR. Absolutely phenomenal what he gets out of that car. I don't know how he does it. It is a pretty cute livery though. But yeah, he's running in P12 here. J-Max just behind him, and Shady Samuel back up to P14 after what can only be described as an eventful lap 1. And Okida there is now ahead of Hulahan, so I'm wondering what happened there, because there's sort of slightly bigger gaps there. I'm wondering if they were battling at some stage and Okida got through, but that is an interesting development in the top 4 there.
Hulahan
And
was
just to
ahead.
point out, yeah, he was. Dylan Tan's come out 1.5 seconds out of Zach Smith, and Zach Smith was, if I recall correctly, 2 positions ahead of him when he came in. So he's currently leading the pack of the cars that have stopped already.
Zach had just got caught up in a little tangle though, if I remember correctly. Like there was that half spin and cars going everywhere, and he just went straight in the pits in the middle of it. Is that right? think that's
That
right in the
was
back,
it. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, yeah. It was like he got caught up in a free wide or something. No real damage, but just decided to get out of the mess. So yeah, we'll see when more of these cars start coming in, because this is where the undercut works, right? Is if they start battling like Akira and Huli. So we'll see if this pays off for Dylan.
Yeah, I think yeah, Bakita's really got to put the nose down and really go hard here. Put some fast, consistent laps in. She always seems to be just chasing hard. There's always seems to be someone that's just a little bit quicker that she really has to push. Oh,
Huli got Dunlopped.
Yep.
Every single person who's done more than 2 laps at Suzuka has experienced the Dunlop suckage, where it just pulls you off the track there, and that's it's a nice free overtake.
where you guys
That
would-
un-
Sorry, I was going to say.
100% quicksand
Yeah.
there. That's
Yes,
quicksand.
it is.
That's all it is.
I have to, like, I think I found when you guys were discussing how bad Spoon is. My brain keeps thinking of Dunlop as well. Like those 2 corners, they tend to, once you start to go wide, it's just like you lift off and you're still going wider, and you're like, I'm trying to slow the car down. If I get on the brakes, I'm off, and then you end up off anyway. So it just tends, both those corners tend to just have bits that just suck you straight off the track, and away you go.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
definitely there's like, you get on the throttle and you're like, normally it sticks, right? Like there's that little piece of road on the outside of the sand as well, where if you hit it perfectly, you're like putting a wheel on that and it's like all cool. And then all of a sudden it's just like, no. And once you're in there, there's no coming back.
Just a little bit of a breaking news here for OR, potentially looking at implementing some custom BOP, as we saw a couple of days ago, LFM announcing they are implementing their own custom BOP. And once they get that nailed down, there's potential of getting that in OR, which would be great news, as you'll see certain cars that are usually 3 or 4 tenths quicker at a specific lap, evening that out a little bit, and meaning you'll see hopefully a bigger spread of car selections across the field.
That'd be cool. I mean, I really do appreciate the differences in the cars and seeing stuff like the Lambo just being so quick here. That's always exciting to see cars doing different things at different places. As we've got Gello defending really hard to Hignett here. Oh, sorry, this is Gello trying to get past Kyrudin, sorry. With a very, very close Hignett right behind. That's why I was thinking it was those two, because I could just see the Ferrari right in that mirror with the lights shining hard.
First penalty through from the stewards there, even Kale, with 15 seconds for that incident on lap 1. That would be the shadow realming of Marina Morella there. I think that's pretty fair coming across on the start-finish line like that, but this Porsche looks like a little bit of a handful through here. I do love this livery. It's still probably my favorite livery I've seen in a very, very long time. The patina look that they've done on this laundry house livery, and Stefano Ricciuti right behind them as well, followed closely by Lucas Burrs and Shady Samuel on the recovery drive. Yesterday he wasn't able to recover. Today he is on the push, and he will be looking to get into the top 10. Dylan Tan, you remember what I said where I thought it won't affect his pace too much?
Yeah, you're right. That's fast. That's really, really fast for
It's
Dylan.
very fast. That's faster than his quali lap. Just by the way.
Yeah, he clearly didn't get a good qualifying lap in then, because I was like, 7th, 8th seemed a little bit too far down for him, considering he was so far ahead last weekend.
That would have been enough for P3 in quali, I think, or P2 potentially. So yeah, just puts it into perspective. This little battle group here is absolutely kicking off. These guys are gonna start attempting some overtakes. I think that with the 2 Porsches in the front here, they're not quite as quick as the Lambo and the Ferrari, and the Lambo and the Ferrari will certainly be looking at getting through. Ricciuti so late on the brakes, closes right up to the back. We see Corey Sweet there getting a penalty. That would be potentially the collision on
Lap 1.
With Ignat's lap 1 though. No, that wasn't lap 1.
But anyway, there Bruno Gallo decides he wants no more part of this battle, and Shady Samuel follows him into pits. So we will start seeing how those play out. Currently Dylan Tan 2.8 seconds ahead of Zach Smith. the lead top four there still haven't done their pit stops, and it'll be interesting to see how this starts playing out. We saw the type of pace Dylan Tan is pushing there. He's looking like he might be getting very close to sort of undercutting both Bukida, Houlihan, and potentially Jande if he continues that pace.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, he certainly knows how to drive a car, and you know, being old enough to be his dad, it makes me sad. But he's such a talent and must be what the fastest, if what one of the top two, if not the fastest ACC driver in Asia Pacific at the moment, right?
Based on the laps that he's capable of, he's very close to being in a sort of top 10, top 15 drivers in ACC pretty much. He's definitely capable of doing that. And we'll see how that plays out for him as this race progresses here. But the battle here between Rachuti, Hignett, and Karuden is still ongoing. Hignett trying to close the gap back up to Karuden. Looks as though Bakita has caught back up with Kobe Chan as well. Half a second behind him, but Chan is slowly losing out to Fadli Rahmat there. Rahmat just with a superior pace there. Will Bakita decide to dive into pit lane, or will Kobe Chan go first? Neither of them decide to go on this lap. They stay out. She's going to try and get a move done on track.
And if if John is correct that this will be Pip's last possible lap, saying he reckons she had 22 minutes of fuel in the car. Start.
She has 2 more laps left. Two more laps. So yeah.
See Ali Karuden there getting a 10-second penalty as well, 10-second penalty. That's really going to hurt him. He's in such a tight battle pack, and with the sort of differences between drivers in this pro class being as minimal as they are, that's really going to hurt him. But now we'll get an indication of Houlihan versus Dylan Tan. Where does Dylan Tan come out compared to Huli?
If Houli's if Dylan Tan's pulled that up, that's crazy because Houlihan was quite a bit ahead, I think, like on for seconds on track when
Oh
Dylan
no!
pitted. Oh,
Yeah, that was for the dive, right?
oh, that was the dive. Yeah, for pushing Zach very, very wide. Was it Zach? Yeah, it was Zach that he sent it
It
up.
was Zach. Yeah, I think it was Zach. Yeah. So I think I did want to say when he went in that early for a stop, maybe it was to cover off some kind of a penalty as well, like just for in case, knowing it's on the way. You know, get it out of the way so you don't have to serve it in that pit stop and at least get a bit of free track. But
Kobe
that's
Chan.
going to really hurt him.
Sorry about that, but Kobe Chan had a big wiggle coming out of Spoon there, and that's allowed Bakita to get a great exit close right up on him. Even Kale there gets another 10-second penalty. I suspect that is for speeding in pit lane. Kobe Chan uses all of the limits and a little bit more. He paid for all of the track. He'll use all of it, but Bakita is right behind him. These guys are slowly just losing a tenth or so a lap to Rahmat ahead, but Kobe Chan does dive into pit lane, and that's going to allow Bakita some clean air for her final lap. At least she'll be wanting to push the pace on that lap. See, last lap was a 59.4. She'll be wanting to go a little bit faster than that for her in lap.
And interestingly, Dylan Tan came out 1.5 seconds behind Huli, so the undercut not quite as strong as maybe we thought. You know, Huli was a couple of seconds up the road, but maybe not the fastest out laps. We do know these tires take a good 2-3 laps to really get up to where you want them to be in terms of pace. And I think with that 15-second penalty, that's just with how close the field is, that's going to drop him, what's that, 8-9 spots almost, based on the current deltas there.
Yeah, that's
Looks
very painful. That's very, very painful.
Looks like he'll drop roughly all the way to about P18 or 19, somewhere around there. Which, no, actually, no, it won't be that much. It'll only be about P16 or 17. A couple of bigger gaps there right behind him. But Gallo came out of pits behind Hignett, so Hignett got the overcut done. I think Hignett stayed out the extra lap. Shady, unfortunately for him, couldn't get the overtake done in the pits on Burst, but he's very close to him now. Based on experience, I don't think the McLaren will be able to drive past that absolute brick of a GTR on the straight.
out of experience, which car can drive past that GTR on a straight, JP?
Hence my experience, apart from maybe a Formula One car potentially. But yeah, I suspect that JD will be significantly better in Sector 1 though. The McLaren is very strong through here, and it doesn't seem like it will be the type of section where the GTR will shine, shall we say.
Here comes
Philippa
Pip.
come in.
Oh, yep. And Rashmat.
Okay, so now we'll get an indication of whether Kobe Chan had a good pit stop, whether Bukita will have a good pit stop. So we have a couple of sort of references, because Strelnikov has taken his final pit stop. He, of course, got taken out in an incident earlier there in the hairpin. But he's going to have to run a 35-minute final stint, which isn't exactly long, but he is the first driver to complete all his pit stops.
I think like where Shady is now, it's out of experience. I can tell you it's the worst place in sim racing, because Bears looks like he's always losing the car, even on a straight. That's just how he drives, but you're always like wanting to back up because he's going to lose it, and he just never does. And then you have to watch Pikachu shouting back at you all the time. So not envying Shady there.
Here comes Kobe Chan. He has Zach Smith and Dylan Tan right behind him. Zach Smith got ahead of Dylan Tan there, so not exactly sure what happened there. Maybe Tan went off track or something.
That's Uli. That's Uli.
Is that Julio? Apologies. So Zach Smith is not ahead of him. Zach Smith is well behind. Very well behind. But yeah, there goes Vakita. She is ahead of Kobe now. So that is some good news for her. She got the overcut done there. Fadli Rahmat is still about 2.5 seconds ahead of Vakita there. And that is about what the gap was before the pits.
I think she absolutely nailed it, because the gap from her to Fadli was almost 4 seconds on when they came in. But she absolutely nailed the entrance of the pit lane there.
Yeah, that's something that Pip works hard on, is her pit stops. She really, really gets every last bit out of them. I have to admit, it's if you do it over how many seconds you might save over a race compared to getting an extra tenth or two a lap, it's huge. Like if you could save a second and a half, 2 seconds, it's the equivalent of doing 2/10 a lap every single lap for the whole stint. So it's a big thing.
It's a lot of time to be gained. I remember she is the reason why I started improving my pit stops after Pro Finals a couple of seasons ago, where I was ahead of her before the pit stop, and then we went in. But whoa, Kobe Chan! Kobe drifts it, keeps it going. Doesn't really lose any time. That was beautiful. But we went into pit lane about half a second apart, and she came out 4 seconds ahead of me, and I was very confused. And then Dylan Tan onto the grass, gets that.
Oh, no, don't do that.
Did wall?
Oh, they're
Yep.
both off.
Uli is in the wall very much
no.
there, and Dylan Tan managed to avoid a bigger accident.
Oh no!
Oh, that's okay.
Good avoidance.
Yes, that's not what you want to see when you're coming around 130R. Is a stationary McLaren.
Oh wow.
It's going to be
Oh,
probably a
fantasy.
good few seconds of damage there based on how much speed he was carrying into the wall. But he does owe Mitch Hobbs a new pair of pants, I reckon, as Shady Samuel
Yeah.
decides to dive into pit lane as well to get rid of looking at Pikachu.
That is very brave to try and go around the outside of 130R. That's
Yeah.
not something you see every day, for good reason.
Well, then again, I don't know if you recall last week where we saw one of the best overtakes I've ever seen in my life, when Dylan Tan
Yes.
also did a move
Down the
that's
outside.
not necessarily
Oh,
on.
it's
So
unbelievable.
he has the confidence to pull off some crazy moves. That was maybe not his best attempt at one of those, but it certainly was an attempt. We get a replay here.
So does he just get fed onto the grass? No, he drops it by himself.
I think Uli didn't give him a lot of space there,
No.
but there was maybe enough for a car. It's always so difficult to judge when you're driving on the screen. You don't get that depth perception. Maybe he was. Oh, Jesus. Okay.
No, 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 no.
No,
I
that
suspect if that was any other car than a Ferrari, that probably would have been a fairly big accident as well.
Yeah, that was scary. Really well held there. Really well held. Was it by Hobbs? Was it? I think it was.
That was Hobbsy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think that was Hobbs. That was, that must have been exciting. So, going to be interesting to see how that one gets read there because it seemed like an interesting one, and thankfully, that's why we have our amazing stewards that we do have in OOR with probably the most thankless job in the whole community.
yeah.
So, it will be interesting to see how they view that because they obviously have a lot more onboards and inputs than we do.
See, Jamie Kosa there gets a 15-second penalty. That would have been for the incident with Ethan Kale into the Casio triangle, I suspect. And Bruno Gallo here, it looks as though before the pit stops, like Ignat was faster, he was putting pressure on Gallo. And then Ignat dived into pit lane, got the undercut done, and now he's not able to pull away from Gallo. So it seems as though they're very, very evenly matched on pace at this stage. But Ricciuti, Kale there in the favorable Lamborghini, still not able to find a way past that very yellow, very cute GTR of Lucas Burst there.
Can you really call a GTR cute? Sorry, I'm like
Well, when it's Pikachu, it's cute. See, Dylan Tan has dived into pit lane there. He will, of course, have to serve that 15-second penalty. And gonna be interesting to see how far down that drops him. Potentially, maybe about 5 or 6 positions, given the timing gaps that we saw.
Is it as far as Houlihan? With the
No.
penalty?
no. So I think we can all agree that's a no.
Yeah.
But it will be interesting to see, as John said, what the stewards decide
Oh,
on that.
stop! Go 30.
Stop, go. That
No,
for
that'll be
speeding?
for speeding. That'll be for
Oh,
speeding.
Yeah, that's
okay.
speeding. Okay.
I thought that's what that penalty was for the outside. I was like, that's that was a big one.
So that'll get
it's-
converted into a 10-second penalty. Well, fortunately and also unfortunately, that's a bit of a not the
5
type of
seconds.
mistake you expect to see. There'll be another one added now.
Yeah, there is.
Not the type of mistakes you expect to see in the pro finals, but you know, when you're trying to get in there as quickly as possible, or maybe potentially accidentally tap your pit limit or something. Not that that's ever happened to me. I would never do something that silly. You know, you can cost yourself quite a lot of time with doing that.
No, that's right. I've done the ignition instead of the pit limiter, and then wonder why I'm going so slow. That's,
I have no idea what either of you are talking about. I have always nailed every single pit stop I have ever attempted. As Dylan came out just barely in front of Shady Samuel there, so that 10 seconds really hurt him. And I think Shady was about P13 when everything was said and done, so it really cost him quite a bit of time, plus
Oh,
now
that-
the next 10 as well.
that Porsche really looks so quick through turn 1 too, and then struggles to sort of keep up through this section. But man, every time they come through turn 1, I was going to mention it last lap, that Porsche looks like absolute rails through turn 1 and catches right up to the back of Hignett in front.
I would venture a guess that although it looks like that from the outside, if we go on board, you would see a very furious Brazilian seesawing on the wheel, trying to keep the nose pointed in the right direction. Based on my try of the Porsche here, seems to really want to just keep turning there.
It sure does. I drove it this time last year. That was it was a big handful at times, and especially on those long radius corners, which this track is full of. But yeah, he seems to be closing the gap though. He seems to really fade away for this part of the track, and then it just gets right up there on turn 1. Maybe it's just all the braking into turn 1 and 2, possibly.
Porsche is very good on the brakes. What it used to be, I'm not so sure on this new one, but that used to be a little bit of its party trick. But yeah, it seems like a bit of a handful in certain situations, and looks as though Burst has pulled a little bit of a gap on Ricciuti here. 27 minutes remaining. Some of these guys might be thinking about pulling the trigger and diving into pit lane. Kita has lost some more time to Rahmat. Zach Smith decides to dive into pit lane, and he's the first out of that sort of top 5 at the moment that have decided to finish their pit stops.
Can we go on board with the Porsche in through turn 1 too? Yes. Let's say it. Let's see where this time has been made. He's made time every single time through here. Look at that, right into that second corner.
That looks nice and compliant, actually. Sorry, so
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
Probably just his setup.
Has to be set up or skill. That is, as an Audi driver, that is not how you take turn one.
Yeah.
You mean you drifted the whole time? I didn't
Yeah, I was
notice
gonna
that in any of your practice, but I mean,
No, no.
Bruno. Oh,
There we go. All right, thank you, Bruno.
That's a bit more Porsche-like. I mean, to be fair, Bruno Gallo is an SRO level driver in this particular car, so if anybody's going to know how to get the most out of it, he's certainly one of those. He's still sticking with Hignett all the time, not letting Hignett get away at all, and he's within that sort of striking distance for any form of mistake in a pit stop, so really doing well here. I thought Hignett was going to slowly start and pull away from him, but not quite the case. We see Moin Taufik here. I think he's our only Malaysian driver in this championship, if I'm not mistaken. Right behind Jacob Maggs here, the two Ferraris. Both of these drivers are very, very quick, consistent drivers. And yeah, Taufik currently sitting on the international podium for this race.
Very well done by Muhin there. He was struggling with Suzuka in the beginning, but being stuck behind him in the rain yesterday for a few laps, he's really is a consistent driver. He knows how to drive that Ferrari, and same goes for Mags as well. So they continue their fight from split blood, and we'll see who comes out on top this time.
Very cool. This is
Interesting to see how much curb the Ferrari can take there. When I did that in my McLaren, I said hello to the outside wall there. But the Ferrari seems pretty stable over there. And there goes Mags. Moyin just reacting at the last minute there, so he stays out another lap. Mags goes early. We have a yellow flag. It looks like car 705. I think that may have been Connor Hind who has returned to pits. He had a bit of an oopsie there at the Casio Triangle. Not sure what happened there, if it was self-inflicted or not, but Ricciuti has also decided to dive into pit lane, as well as Kale, I think. I don't see him on the leaderboard. Oh, he's completed his pit stop on the previous lap already, sorry.
Yeah, that's correct. There's still actually quite a few cars that still haven't done it their last stop yet. I know there's a fair bit of time left, but we are sort of 4 minutes away from that optimum time to do the pit stop, so surely we'll start to see cars coming in from about this lap onwards that are not having issues. I mean, we've seen a number of cars jump in that are having issues.
I was just about to say, actually, it's more cars than I expected that have finished all their pit stops. But yeah, we see Shady Samuel there. He appears, no, it's still updating. Things are updating. Never mind. Let's not make any judgments while ACC sorts itself out there.
Yeah, again, you're probably right. It has been about a third, but there has been so much action and number of offs this race. It's been a fair bit messier than the last weekend's race in terms of racing incidents, but the pace has still been just as quick though.
I think that's just the nature of the track, to be honest. It's so hard to overtake here, so you will see a little bit more desperation from some of the drivers.
Yeah, and there's also the fact that it's an old school track with grass on the edges and that sort of thing, where previous with the other track had tons of runoff and all that sort of stuff. Here's the replay. Oh no!
No!
Oh, that is a very good car.
So he went onto the 50-50 grind rail of the pit at the exit of 130R there, and that is a race ender right there.
Yeah. One more time. That
Such
just
a
goes.
weird curve, that
Yeah.
it happened a couple of times in practice with both myself and John as well, where you take it 4 laps in a row, nothing happens, and then you take exactly the same line and the car just says, "How you doing?" And then you visit a wall out of nowhere. So unfortunately for him, he wasn't able to save it on that occasion. That is the end of his race, but to be fair, his race started pretty poorly as he went completely off onto the grass there in lap 1. So it was a bit of a cursed race right from the beginning for Connor Hind there.
So just looking at this battle for the lead here, it's like Fudley seemed to have, he picked up, like, he was 2.7 when they came out, and then he pushed it up to about 3.5, 3.6. But just these last few laps, Filippo's been hitting like lap times within a tenth of each other every single lap. And she's slowly closing it up again. So I think it's still all to play for. She's keeping it close enough where you get moved in the pits and you are losing a position. So definitely still all to play for here for the lead.
She's stay home racing. I'm assuming that's Dennis Strelnikov, as he was replying to a comment that Firelord made a little bit earlier, who did not have the best day. Based on the little smiley face at the end of today, not my day, I think that's a Russian. So that appears to be Dennis Strelnikov there, and that is an unfortunate race for him. Nothing his fault in the first incident, but then when your race just starts falling apart, it usually does so in pretty spectacular fashion.
Yeah, driving around with a bent car, or and the fiery blood you get when you've been unfairly bumped off or caught up in someone else's incident can be very, very hard to deal with. So condolences there. There's
And I
always
think
next
the
week.
fact there's always next week, and that is
All the
that
track,
probably
isn't it?
makes sense. I would say that makes sense. That is, I think Hobbs is still cleaning his pants as we speak at the moment.
Yeah,
The
that.
seat is very uncomfortable for the rest of the race. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, we saw in the very first round of the prelims where Hobbsy was on the receiving end of a drive-through penalty for an unsafe rejoin. So yeah, it seems probably a little bit lenient from his eyes, but a fair penalty there. That was a bit of a risky rejoin. See Shady Samuel here right on the back of Ricciuti, and that leads me to believe that Samuel's attempt at an undercut on Lucas Burst may not have been successful.
Oh, nice little wiggle there.
Just a little McLaren wiggle, right?
Yeah, it's just the McLaren things out of there. It's not its most planted corner, but it is still carries a lot of speed, even though you get that little sort of wiggle going on. And he'll be trying to get past Ricciuti, and having been stuck behind Ricciuti a fair few times, as has John, I think we can attest to this not being an easy overtake to get done.
No idea what you're talking about. I usually just accidentally kill him when I'm stuck behind him. So, Shady, hopefully the better of the Kovacs purple drivers. I'm not going to do that. But that Lambo is so good out of the traction zones that I don't know where Shady will be able to find any opportunities for an overtake. The places where the McLaren is fast is not exactly your overtaking opportunities.
It's very good through Sector 1, it's okay through Sector 2, and average through Sector 3. It's very good through 130R, but it's not very good through the chicane. So if you can potentially get a good run out of Spoon, and try and spook Ricciuti in 130R a little bit, maybe get that move done into the Casio triangle, but all of that's going to be very tricky. And a couple of drivers now, Mitch Hobbs, Kobe Chan, Bruno Gallo and Brad Cook, all diving into the pit lane. So that's more than half of the drivers now having completed their final pit stop. We have 18 minutes remaining in this race on this occasion. Shady with a bit of a poor run through Spoon, so he's not going to put that type of pressure on this time around.
I'm just having a look, and I know it's a little bit nerdy, but I love looking at like Philippa just reeling in Fudley a tenth per lap, slowly but surely. It must be so disconcerting if you're someone, you're leading, you're running at your absolute maximum pace, and it doesn't matter how fast you go. There's someone that just keeps closing that gap a tenth at a time, Nothing massive, but definitely Philippa is on the charge. Her pace is very good. So yeah, I think all things considered, I reckon we might have a ding-dong battle for the last 17 minutes of this race.
Yeah, and remember, Pip actually gained about a second and a half under pits as well last time.
That's
so,
a good point.
If she can repeat that might actually bring that right up there. There's to having a battle on the last couple of laps. But we are running out of time, though. There's not much time left in this race.
So my question is, JP, if you are in this position, bearing in mind it's two different classes, do you still go for the on-track win?
Of course.
More
Absolutely.
points.
I don't understand how you would sit behind somebody just because they're in a different class. cars. Go for an overtake, and Ali Kairudin here, he is right behind Spinazzi, and he dives into pit lane. And there's a couple more drivers, Ignat, Burs, and Taufik, all diving into pit lane. So we'll get an indication that battle between Rachuti and Samuel, where they come out in relation to Burs as well. The two AVR cars here behind. Why are there two AVR cars behind Bukita? So that would be Morello and Hooli, I suspect, who have had some unfortunate incidents throughout this race so far.
Yeah, both with big damage into the wall, and luckily, you know, I guess that's the nice thing about this series is no matter how bad your race has gone, there's always going to be someone to race. So, you know, they'll be racing for pride there, internal team pride, as, you know, we know that's more important than any series victory ever.
AVR definitely haven't had the best night tonight, as even Zach Smith has been caught up in some shenanigans. He was looking the most racy out of all of them as well. Although full hand with his really fast qualifying lap times, putting him up in the top 5.
There goes Bukita. So she has pulled the trigger. 2.4 seconds at the last timing measure. Let's see how things play out. Stephen Ty here. Is it just delivery, or is there a little bit of damage on the front end of the... No, there's certainly a little bit of damage on the front of that Lamborghini. That would be from the Kosa Kale incident earlier, where he made contact with Kosa while he was doing a pirouette, and he comes into pit lane very aggressively, late on the brakes, and the Ferrari does it, or the Lamborghini does its little twinkle twinkle with the lights at the back there. But he was running provisional P3, but I think he's probably sort of between Kobe Chan and Zach Smith, I would guess.
Say so, yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see where he pops up. He's driven a pretty quiet race, I'd say. Stephen Ty's just sort of...
Yeah, I think that's the kind of race you don't mind to have here, based on what's happened to other people today. You know, the less screen time you have, probably the better.
Especially when you're running top 5, top 6, and you're having a boring race as such. You're not going to complain about that too much. And Stefano Ricciuti and Shady Samuel tried an undercut. It didn't work, and they have to look at Pikachu again and try and get an overtake done. But Lucas Burs is just so consistent, very rarely makes mistakes, and it makes him such a tricky driver to overtake.
Oh, as you say
As
that.
I say that.
well called, JP. But now just look at it. Pikachu, I choose you to drive away from everybody else.
That he may drive away from Ricciuti, but Shady Samuel got a great exit out of the Casio triangle there. Will he be able to pull alongside with that double toe? Go on board with Ricciuti. No, Shady Samuel's not quite there yet. Oh, Burs makes another mistake, and Ricciuti tries to send it up the inside. Burs will have the inside for turn 3, but Ricciuti is well and truly alongside. Oh, he gets squeezed, goes a little bit wide there, and settles in back behind. You see Shady Samuel just sawing at the wheel, trying to get a good run through this SS. Very tricky to carry the speed, especially when you're following this closely behind two cars that are battling for position. Burs seems to have calmed it back down again, and he is still ahead of Ricciuti here. Shady Samuel not able to benefit at all from a couple of small mistakes there from the driver ahead.
Out the front, Rush Matt's just thrown it in the pits as well. So, oh man, these guys are really driving 110%. Probably a little bit too far over the limits here, but again, oh, this is a battle that I love to see.
Not in pit lane yet. He's still
Oh, is he? Oh, I'm reading that wrong. My bad. Thank you for correcting me.
He is the only driver at the moment who hasn't completed their pit stop. Akita grow the gap to Chan a little bit there. Stephen Tai came out behind Zach Smith in the pit stop phase there, but ahead of Mitch Hobbs. And Dylan Tan, with all of his penalties and misfortune, is down in P7, but he does of course have that 10-second penalty for speeding in pit lane, which is going to again drop him down maybe 3 or 4 positions there, given the gap to Hignett. Does have 12 minutes to grow that gap a little bit, so potentially try and mitigate the damage from another 10-second penalty.
think this is. I just wanted to double check that I heard correctly. The guy that never makes a mistake just made 2 mistakes in 3 corners there after JP
Didn't
jinxed
say he
it.
never makes a mistake.
No,
I
they're
said he
just double
rarely
checking.
makes mistakes.
That is fair. So rare
And
it
he-
happened twice.
He just gave an example of them for him. That's all he did. He just
That's
was like,
fair.
"Here-
Exactly.
Here's the
Exhibit
mistakes."
A.
I said he rarely makes mistakes,
Yeah.
which makes him tricky to overtake.
Oh,
Did
wow.
Stefano overtake him?
Yeah, and like I said, it was exactly what you said. He just heard the commentary as it on his ears because he's getting bored driving around so consistently. It's just like, here's a couple of examples of mistakes I can make.
That
Is
is
it-
very fair.
Step
Take the
going
win.
off.
Take the win. Take the win, JP. As we have Rahma jumping into the pit stop, so we'll
There we
see. Just having a look at Philippa's outlap was reasonable, not nothing to set the world on fire. It's about half a second of where you want it to be. So I think it might be very close on exit here.
I'd be very surprised if she has managed to get ahead of him. That would be something pretty special, but she should be maybe a little bit closer than she was before the pit stops. And with 10 minutes remaining in this race, it could set us up very nicely for a big old battle come the end of the race. We've seen there with Samuel and Ricciuti, it's not easy for the McLaren to get past the Lamborghini. And with the pace that Rahmat has shown, is he moving? He is moving. She's coming through the Casio triangle. He's sort of
Yeah.
halfway down pit lane, so he's going to be ahead. It's just going to be a question of how far ahead he is. She's coming at great speed, closing in towards turn 1. I don't think that gap has come down
No,
too
that's
much.
not
if
come
at
down
all.
at all.
Might have even extended. I mean, the cold tires are going to be a little bit slow for the first half of the lap. Yeah, that looks bigger than 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's 2.2 seconds. So she, through all of that, she made up 1/10. So technically I'm correct, but not 100% correct there.
That is the best kind of correct, is being technically correct. But yeah, she would have hoped to have gained a little bit more through the pit lane or pit stop phase there. Dylan Tan is closing in on Mitch Hobbs. He seems to be in about the only car that's capable of really attempting overtakes today. Oh, Shady Samuel. I think that was just the stream playing tricks on my eye. It looked like he was going a little bit wide there. But in all of this sort of attempt at battling here, Ethan Kale is slowly but surely creeping back up to the tail end of that little battle pack. Dylan Tan there, very close to Mitch Hobbs, and we switch back to the battle pack. There's a Ferrari of Mohin Tawfiq, not too far behind him either. And he was racing Jacob Max before the pit stops, and look how far Max is behind now. So I'm wondering what happened to Max in the last couple of minutes.
That's right. It's there's so much action happening throughout the pack. Lots of little errors and unforced errors happening all over the place. So it's hard to keep track of exactly where everyone is. Although we have finally got a racing order again, where everyone has finished their compulsory stops, so we shouldn't be seeing any more stops. And just a couple of penalties overhanging Dylan Tan and Houlihan.
Dylan Tan has added about 1.5 seconds to that gap to Hignett over the last couple of laps, so he's well on his way to mitigating the loss. It's now only 2 positions. He just needs to get a couple more seconds and he will lose no positions through the penalty, and he's piling the pressure on Hobbsy, and it must feel so, as you said earlier with Philippa as well, being or chasing down Rahmat. Dylan Tan just chasing down Hobbsy. Hobbsy just did his personal best on the previous lap, and Dylan Tan still closed the gap on him, so you know there's not really much to do, and Hobbsy will know that he doesn't really need to defend this on track should Dylan attempt to move, because he does have that penalty.
Yeah, you just got to let him go here. I think you'd probably even go faster by following him for a lap or two as well, and potentially even hold up Stephen Ty by letting him pass. So it is actually possibly a good play.
You won't lose the position, and as you said, Dylan Tan can close in on Stephen Ty and potentially battle with him, allowing you to catch back up. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Hobbsy decides to do here. Does he defend, or does he make it a little bit easy for Dylan Tan to get through?
He doesn't have a teammate behind that he's going to try and hold 10 up for.
Whoa, that's exciting through Degner 1.
Very. That part of the track gets some real good action, doesn't it? Oh.
It does. It's just that sort of you get so used to the car stepping out that it becomes second nature. But when I just saw Hobbsy's car there because it's a Ferrari and it's not supposed to slide at all, and all of a sudden he's going at 90 degrees. Still, I mean, you need probably a 1 second delta, positive delta, to be able to pass someone here on pace alone without a mistake. But we have seen that that BMW seems to be the fastest car on the straight by quite some margin. So, let's see if we see that around the outside of 130R again, which hasn't been penalized, by the way. I think that hasn't
No.
come through. So probably seen as a racing incident,
Oh.
as Philippa Bakita puts the foot down and goes faster than she did in qualifying, as you do, and closes the gap to 1.5 seconds to Fadli Rahman.
Just saw the line that Dylan Tan took through that final corner and threw up a little bit in my mouth. He just drives over that curb like it's not
Yep.
there. Most other cars, you take that and you land somewhere south of Tokyo, and he just absolutely drove over it as if it's not a thing. But yeah, Philippa Bakita there putting in a belter of a lap, and while that battle was going on, I saw it looks as though Shady Samuel made a little bit of a mistake, and Ethan Gale closed right back up on him. And Ali Rudin also right on the back of Spinat. So there's still quite a few battles for position going on throughout the pack.
Yeah, I was point out Briss is in P10. That's did he qualify about 18th or so, was it again?
Yeah, like to low
Yeah.
20, like in close
Yeah.
to 20th, I think.
Yeah.
So really good effort by Lucas there.
This lap, it looks as though Rahmat has picked up the pace a little bit, pulled out 2 tenths on Bakita through the first sort of 60% of the lap there. And yeah, I think he has the pace in hand to just sort of manage this towards the end. There's only 5 minutes remaining, which will be about 3 more laps. So I don't think he's going to feel too much pressure from that. But speaking of pressure, Ethan Kale and Shady Samuel. Oh, Stefano Ricciuti up the inside of the hairpin. Will he be able to get the exit? It's a drag race. You don't want to get in a drag race with a GTR. You're never going to win that. with the GTR.
Especially when they got the inside.
Can you see the GTR just laugh at him and drive away? Oh, that's stupid.
That's very fast car.
So it's
Oh,
like
it's-
when a man. Oh, that's Ethan Gale up the inside of Shady Samuel. That looks. Oh, okay. Almost looked like they were trying to get it up the inside there, but not quite alongside enough. And Ricciuti must be getting super frustrated with this bloody GTR that just won't get out of the way. Oh, that's too much curb.
Fight for top 10 though.
How did Lamborghini not just insta die there? That curve is usually very deadly if you take that much of it. But yeah, he made it through, but it did cost him a little bit of time. Compromised run into the chicane there. Previous lap, it looks as though Bakita closed the gap again a little bit there. No, and it's grown back up to 1.8 again. So yeah, I think Fatih Rahmat has this covered until the end of the race. Oh, Shady Samuel makes a mistake. Oh.
I don't know. I think that's a bit of a bump and play on. I think the person in front left the track. You went, okay, I'll take the racing line, and then it's like, oh, never mind. You want your spot back, and I'm here now. We'll see.
I think this week, Shady, just turn 1 is just not going to be his favorite corner forever. So as we slow down a bit there, we see Waheen Tawfiq, catch up on Shady here. I think Shady was one of the first to stop as well. So probably, his tires will be a little bit more warm than the rest. But he does seem to be quite a bit off the pace now.
I'm wondering what happened there. He went very slowly after that contact, and wasn't that big of a contact. I don't think it would have cost him particularly any damage with notes. He was very slow through the rest of the S's there. And Gorilla pointing out Burr's driver of the day again. I mean, you choose an underdog car with an abundance of talent, you should put yourself in a good position to get driver of the day fairly frequently. Bakita, gap down to 1.4 seconds now. We have one more lap after this. Kobe Chan is running a nice boring race there in P3, 5 seconds behind them, many seconds ahead of Zach Smith. Mohin Tawfiq got a great run out of Spoon there. Will he be able to make it side by side. He's not quite close enough. He does try and spook Shady there, but Shady won't be spooked by those type of actions too often, and he gets a beautiful line. And Rachuti and Ethan Gale going side by side through the
Oh.
chicane. And
Oh no!
No, 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 no! Oh,
Oh,
no!
that is a dead car.
Okay.
No, you go pit lane. No. That's
no.
not good, boys.
Not at all.
What Ethan Gale and the main straight today have not been best mates to whoever he was racing with.
Oh, the car
Oh.
is just not doing what he wants now.
That's such a shame because Rachuti was defending so well to the cars behind and trying to attack Burrs. And yeah, unfortunately, they just got involved in an incident with Ethan Gale. Shady Samuel and Taufik, lucky to avoid it. Shady onto the grass and managed to keep it facing the right direction, but I think that cost him a run down into turn one as well.
And I also want to put out Zach Smith's actually done a wonderful job considering he was on the receiving end of a bump that cost the other person the penalty, so it was not a very fair play. And he still managed to pull it all out to fourth from P11, was it? I think he qualified. So
Yeah, he was P11.
big move forward from Zach. So obviously didn't quite nail his qualifying as well as he wanted, but great drive. Like I said, to keep his head, considering all the dramas that's happened in and around his position. So.
Yeah, I think the AVR has not had a good race, and at least Zach Smith salvaging something. Still, that's second place for the Australian class, right? So, really good recovery by him.
Strong result. Brendan Paul is saying the Suzuka Lambo curse has continued. There's a Lambo leading the race, so curse can't be that bad, I would say.
Still
And,
3/4 of a lap left.
I mean, there's still time. There's still time. But yeah, I feel really sorry for Rachuti there. He was really just a bit of an unfortunate incident. That was the same curb that I was talking about Dylan Tan just driving over like it wasn't there, and you saw there when Kale hit it, the car just bounced, and that forced a little bit of understeer into the rear end of Rachuti there. It looks as though Tan has gotten past Hobbsy, 1.2 seconds ahead of him, 7.5 seconds, so he will potentially still lose to Hignett. He does have one more lap. If he can put in an absolute blinder of a lap here, he could potentially get that gap up to enough to not lose any position to Hignett.
And Pip has driven a really nice race. Just unfortunately, her first couple of laps let her down, got shuffled back a little bit, and then got caught in some battles. And yeah, that's always going to slow it down. She's literally the fastest car on the track, but just couldn't quite get the pace. Lost too many big chunks of time in battles and passes and that sort of stuff. So yeah, unfortunately, the race didn't go her way today for the win, although she has been exceptionally fast.
She does get the win in class, but speaking of winning, Fatli Rahmat rounds the Casio Triangle for the final time. He has been pretty much untouchable today. Doesn't get the fastest lap, but he does have pole. He does have the win in round 2 here after Motorsport Australia Simagic GT3 Cup. Filippo Bakita will take P2. She'll be not too upset with that. It will be a winning class. She'll be satisfied with a fairly solid result. And Kobe Chan in the McLaren crosses the line there in P3.
Yeah, and I'm going to give my driver of the day to Zach Smith. I think really well done. Like I said, was on the receiving end of some rough racing, but really did well keep his head and put himself into P2 in class and P4 on track, which has been awesome. Mitch Hobbs has got to be.
We have Stevie Ty get 5th spot there, so we'll just remain to see how far Dylan Tan has fallen. 2 positions total. Lucas Burrs, P10, must feel like a victory. Shady Samuel holding on to 11th spot there from Taufik, and Ethan Kale maybe has a penalty to come, but still finishes 13th there ahead of Chris Taylor. And then in the battle of the Porsches, Ali Karudin did manage to pass Spinazzi there ahead of Jason Maggs, Mr. Cook, and then the unfortunate AVR McLarens of Morella and Houlihan crossing the line. Jamie Kosa, after such a promising qualifying, it's coming in, I think, 21st. and Stefano Rusciuti in the pits. Wall still stuck in the wall. The team will go and scrape him off later.
It's basically like a Bushman painting on the Suzuka wall now. It'll just be there as a permanent fixture.
Yeah.
Just an Italian flag stuck on the wall.
Koza did beat Houlihan by 0.05, by the way, after the penalty was applied.
Yes, Morella was the driver involved in the Cal incident at the start here, but we will just confirm your results here. And we see there Fadli Rahmat takes the win in the international class, with Kobe Chan in second in the international class, as well as Dylan Tan gets P3, so not too bad for him considering how the race went. And of course, Filippo Bakita, Zach Smith, and Steven Tai, your podium in the Australian class. Well, that was certainly some racing. It was
Definitely was something. I mean, who says Suzuka races are boring?
yeah, no, I don't think it was. I wouldn't say it was as good a race as last week was, just in terms of the quality of the racing. A lot more incidents, but as we said earlier, maybe just the nature of the track.
Yeah, last weekend was ridiculously good for the quality of racing, though. That was absolutely the best, probably the best race I've seen in ACC last weekend. It was
Yeah, that's
sprint
fair.
race. Yeah.
It was hard to. It was going to be hard to live up to that race. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But I think still maybe not the cleanest, but super entertaining. I really enjoyed watching this one tonight.
I think that's going to do us for today. Next week, no racing because we are going to Germany. Next Saturday, we will have the Nürburgring 6 hours, which is going to be quite a lot of fun. We will have the shootout and then the race on Saturday. And the week after that, we are going to Valencia, if I'm not mistaken, as the next round of the Motorsport Australia Simagic GT3 Cup as well.
That's exciting. Thanks very much, Peach. Sorry. Good looking Seneko and fastest Seneko. Thank you very much for joining me in the commentary today. Big shout out to Glenn again and Octane Online Racing. This has been the Motorsport Australia Esports Racing Simagic GT3 Cup, brought to you by the Octane Online Racing. Shout out to everyone in chat. Thank you so much for cheering on your favorite drivers and all your input during the race. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. We're off for now. Bye-bye.